All right, I think. Hello. All right. Yes, it's stream time. Thank goodness. I did not. This is surreal to have no direct feedback. I didn't know if I had this all on or anything. All right, let me send out messages on stuff that we are live. I was trying to figure this all out. So sorry about me just sitting there quiet for a second. Control C. So many things. I feel like I need one more monitor so that I can do not stream to I can have the window open and talk and do everything. But thank you all for showing up. Like I said, we're just making an announcement. Did I make? No, I didn't. All right, and then upload file. Just announcing in the Discord, and we'll announce. I don't know. I'm supposed to use social media, right? We'll announce there. Woot woot. How is everybody doing today? Everybody having fun? Okay. I gotta keep stream always visible. I gotta keep the chat visible. That's important. Yeah, so today we don't, since we're all just starting this up, I don't have, we're all gonna be learning this together, you know, we're all in this together where I learn how to handle myself here. And also we're gonna go through some of kind of my decks so you guys can as part of our stream, but also feel free for right now just to get people trickling in to ask me whatever stupid questions you want. I know we already talked a bunch in the Discord about my opinions on the bands, but also I know that people have infinite opinions on the bands, or just general opinions about Magic and stuff. I know I chat a lot about deck building. So I will rattle off if we get me a subject going. I will never stop talking about it. Day close to Friday, you know? It is the day close to Friday. I a lot of you guys are international, so it's hard for me to track exactly what days it is for you. Because for me, it's Thursday because I'm in the United States, the center of the universe, and all things. But I gotta get used to talking as if the United States is not the center of the universe and all things, which is new for me. Coast. It's a Friday. That's true. Is that a yes? Australia is a day ahead. I always forget if you're a day ahead or a day behind us. All right, last. Howdy everyone. That I'm sending out. I guess last one or two. All right, now we can discuss. Okay, so this is Jacksonville, Florida. Hey, I'm not much better. We're in Texas. I have a friend who lives out um in Melbourne, Florida, I think. Somewhere near Orlando. And we went a trip to visit him, and we got in, it was horrible and it was muggy. And we got out of the plane, and it was just as horrible and it was just as muggy. And I realized that I now live in a place with the same weather as Florida. And I had to rectify with that fact. It was truly terrifying. Bad experience to know that my state is just as bad as Florida. It's not a good thing to have to come to terms with. You got to get back to the West Coast, you know, be one of the coastal elites again. Ooh, yes, let's get comfy. Let's learn how to MTG deck. Okay, this is. I should try and get the chat on this side of my screen so that I can. Nope, not like that. Please, OBS, cooperate. Can I be on that side of the window? No, that side of the. There we go. No, we're getting so close, OBS. Just so I can see you guys and the deck that I'm reviewing kind of at the same time, get you in my peripheral vision. Also, how does the audio sound? Am I listenable? Am I breathing in your ears? How does it sound? I good, bad. I have no idea. I have, as those in the Discord have learned, I've had a long struggle on trying to learn how the hell microphones actually work. All right, good. Audio good. Awesome. So this is the first deck I think that I talked about in finally. Oh, you finally made. Well, thank you for making a YouTube account so that you can come talk to us. Thank you so much. Also, not using YouTube, not having an account to use YouTube with is crazy to me. But it's also crazy to me that people like talk about YouTube as social media. I mean, it is, but it is just like, as someone who didn't grow up on like Facebook and all of that stuff when growing up and barely using anything else, it's been siloed off in my mind as something else. But I understand the overarching grouping, especially since they've all become algorithmic hellholes that suck up my time, energy, and self-worth. I can try and be a little louder. We can turn the gain up just a little bit, get everything a little louder. And I can be a little closer to the microphone. I'm just trying not to breathe in y'all's ears too much. I'm always really paranoid about breathing. So I cut the crap out of my audio so that you guys don't hear me breathing in the videos, or at least not that much. Now it's ruined my ability to watch other YouTubers because I'll hear every time they breathe in a video, I can hear it because I've gotten so used to listening for my own breathing. so it's ruined everything. I have to untrain myself to stop doing that. Or else I'm just gonna hear breathing in and out of my ears all the time, and I can't focus on what's actually being said by the YouTuber. So I've now cursed you with this knowledge, by the way, that if you do listen to YouTubers, you will hear them breathing in between voices, and so I've cursed you with this knowledge. Listen for it, and you'll never stop listening for it. I hope you appreciate that. All right. But yeah, so this is, I guess we can hop right into, because we're just reviewing my decks. I'm not waiting for people today. If people do, I should have a tab open. If people do want their decks to be reviewed today, you can if you just join right now, there should be a link visible if you join the Patreon right now to just send it in. But my plan for today right now, because this is all new, we're all getting this just set up now, is to just review some of my decks, specifically some of the ones that I've shown in videos that I can actually walk through my thought process. Most importantly, so that I can make sure that I know in my videos I come across as like this very robotic way to build decks, and like I have all these standards that I'm like pulling up calculators. In reality, I have to use those things to like prove my point in like 15 minutes. But in reality, it's a lot more vibes based. It's a lot more, yeah, I'm pretty sure this is the right amount. I kind of just eyeball it a lot more than I talk about in my videos. But if that eyeballing will fall in line with a lot of what the videos are saying, if I do go back and like I do make sure to double check that my decks do adhere to the advice that I give. But it is much more of a, ephemeral process. It's a lot more just, yeah, it is incredibly vibes based. But if you've been doing this and like really paying attention for like 10 years, the vibes do start to line up with all of the things that I do say. So, but that is all to say that it's not, following the advice in the videos is not all about like getting into the nitty gritty details about everything. It is about learning that those details are kind of important and that you do need to learn them and bring them to your awareness. But as you do that, over time, it'll just kind of be a thing that you naturally do. Data is vibe. I have a friend who's getting their PhD in political science. He I tell him about how we make decisions. I work in design engineering. So I tell him how we make decisions at my company on like, and the number of tests we'll run to like think that to confirm or disprove a hypothesis or whatever. He's terrified. So much of it is just like, and these are two graphs. I'm pretty sure this is what's happening. Okay, these numbers line up, you know. Well, if the numbers line up to what we think we're happening, let's run one test to like confirm or disprove our hypothesis. And then if it does the thing we say it does, then we were right the whole time and we're gonna move on. But it is a lot of just like, I'd say at least 30 to 40% of my, actually if we include my simulation work, so much of my engineering job is just like I stare at data and I kind of just try to use my background in my engineering education to just intuit what the hell is happening. Like just be like, try and figure out what's going on in this data. Just vibes out the data. And then pitch to another engineer, hey, do this really elaborate test that if I'm wrong should go horribly wrong. It's part vibes. It's parts like just making sure when something goes wrong, it's going to be really, really obvious. If you're going to be wrong, it's going to be really obviously wrong. That's most of it. Occasionally, you do actually whip out the math and crunch the hard numbers and tell the test engineer to run. But oh my god, telling my test engineer to run 20 tests of the same thing in a row to get like a statistically valid sample, I think he would physically hurt me. He definitely inflict injury upon my soul with the stare that he gives me. Here's the secret. All professions are vibes-based professions. Someone's just standardized the vibes, but it's all vibes. It's just about, this is what you have to understand about the bracket system, that life, not just brackets, not just magic deck building, but life is vibes. All of it, the whole way down. The whole way down is just reading the room and figuring out what's going on. And praying that you understand what the hell's happening. And then apologizing when you inevitably misread the room sometimes. Ugh. Yep, we can do some deck testing. So you guys can also see, I know a couple people have asked me about like, how do I deck? Dude, I know other people are like, oh, and I set up 3 or 4 decks and I play them against each other. And that's probably good. This is one thing that I've learned that I am apparently quite good at across games, because this comes up when I play D&D too, is just being able to intuit what individual performance will look like in context. If that makes sense, like translating, I played this deck on my own, what will that look like when I'm playing against 3 other players who are trying to stop me? Read the runes. You're gonna kill me with the read the runes card. I swear. I know you like it. I appreciate your endeavor to make it a good magic card, but every time I bring up burst card draw and you send read the runes in the Discord, I am gonna have an aneurysm. Please keep doing it. This is not me saying to stop doing it. Please keep doing it. Please keep having fun with your card. It is a fun card. But it's just like, it's not card draw. But it is card selection. It's good card selection if you can get that X high enough. You can get that X high. But yeah. Oh, yeah. So this is the Magus Luciacane deck. This deck has a little bit of problem. This is our first deck we ever showed on the channel. First of my decks I showed on the channel in my gameplay video. That was, this turn play tested a turn 5 kill. Now, I put my thumb on the scale a little bit. That was like a starting hand. That was the starting hand I did open up with. But like when I just opened Moxfield, but little thumb on the scale, it is a pretty decent starting hand. That being said, this deck does have a bit of a problem being in bracket 3. I can't remember who I was talking with in the Discord about this, about like the really high end of bracket 3 has a little bit of an issue of what I like to call like maximal fair decks. It's like the most you can do with a deck that's still engaging in a fair strategy. Because that's the main thing for me, at least, that brackets between 3 and 4 is like, if I'm going to bracket 4, we're not doing anything fair anymore. I'm taking my game plan and I am turbocharging it with the most broken shit I have available to me that I can pick up, I can do. I'm not doing the fair things anymore. We're not playing on normal. I'm expecting my opponents to have free counter magic. I am playing with incredibly powerful card advantage spells, and I am trying to break the game at its fundamental core, whether that be with infinite or just getting with fast mana, or with like some kind of unintended interaction. We are no longer playing fair magic when I get to bracket 4. But this is, yeah, Turbo Ramp has this problem where Turbo Ramp is like the king of fair, where Turbo Ramp is doing a powerful thing for bracket 3. This is a Turbo Ramp deck. It's kind of running into this problem, where this is a fair thing. I am going to untap Magus Lucia Kane to make a shit ton of mana, and I'm going to cast like a dude who normally needs to pass the turn. Sometimes they don't. But like even that is just like, that's a really fair plan. I need this mana dork to make me a ton of mana to cast this dude. This is not fundamentally breaking the rules of Magic in any real way. But Roxanne in the command zone, this is what I'm talking about. Like, Roxanne in the command zone is a fair thing to be doing. Like, it's strong. It's not a fair does not necessarily mean not strong, but you are still tertiarily engaging with the systems of Magic. We are still on the ground floor. I am trying to, like, we have curves that are, I still talk about curves in my bracket 4 decks, but they are fucked beyond belief. I am ritualing to specific points in my curve, and I am like, I need to hit this point one time, and then I'm gonna win the game. Like, it's like when I talk about my Satoru deck, is like, it's not like I need to make sure I can consistently produce this outcome when we get to bracket 4. Bracket 4 is I'm gonna produce overwhelming advantage, and then I'm going to leverage that into something fundamentally broken. That like just the base systems of, again, it's not fair Magic. I'm not playing fair Magic anymore. I'm not trying to play on like a normal axis, where like Roxanne or this deck is playing on a fairly normal axis, right? I'm getting a lot of mana. It's a very strong thing to do. But like, I'm ramping over time. I have a curve. I have like traditional style payoffs. I'm usually using combat. Like, these are all like fair, air quotes, things to be. Even like the combos, we'll probably talk about Gave after this. The combos in Gave are all like Gravecrawler loops, which are like Basking Root Wall loops, which are like teetering on not fair Magic, but the game plan is still like generally fair because we don't have a lot of like fast mana or rituals or anything. I'm still like trying to follow. I guess unfair Magic does not feel the need to like forecast what it's doing by building up on board, but fair Magic still needs to like signify that something is, hi sweetheart, is like coming, and it is like forecasting what it's doing. You can see what's happening. Unfair Magic is just like, and go. We're set, we're going. And that's kind of that's the bridge between, that's my difference between 3 and 4. And the high end of 3 is still like, hey, I'm still using combat. I'm still setting up a board. It's still like we're building up as we exchange. But then if you get that really, really optimized, really resilient, I had a problem with this. This deck is like that, where you can get that at like turn 5. And like, this deck can burn through multiple. I've had this deck deal, which is like, it gets board wiped. All right, I play Magus Lucia Kane with 1,000-year Elixir out. I fire off a big Kozilek's command. I untap. I go again. And it's just, it's doing fair things. I'm still forecasting what I'm doing, still adhering to that vibe, but it is, I'm going to demand a board wipe on turn 4, and I'm going to demand a board wipe on turn 6, and then I'm going to demand a board wipe on turn 7. I'm just going to keep doing it every single turn. And in my experience, it's just not, it's too strong for like what most bracket 3 decks are trying to deal with. Even though it is not, but it's not something I would generally classify as a bracket 4 deck, because it's still like a fair thing to be doing. That was really rambly. I am noticing that I'm going to get real rambly here as I am talking. I need to talk and read at the same time, which is I'm not traditionally good at doing. But yeah, I hope that whole ramble makes sense. What I mean by like fair and unfair and like supremely optimized fair, which is what this deck kind of is. cards like I am a big advocate for. I don't usually use like Bloodthirsty Conqueror or Exquisite Blood on their own, but I'm a big advocate for just throwing Veto into aggro decks. I straight up will just huck Veto into an aggro deck. I used to pair Veto with Whip of Erebos all the time. Just like constantly as Whip of Erebos just being this way to recur one of my big threats with haste. Just get that like just get that extra bit of reach. And then Veto's like good, right? You can play it early. And then for like an Alpha Strike, you can just pay the 5. Everything gets lifelink. You've effectively given like a weird kind of unblockable double strike. Like obviously I'm oversimplifying by unblockable double strike, but like that's kind of what you get out of activating Veto when Veto's in play. So Veto, I used to put Veto in a lot of just like, I don't have the combo here. Veto's just here because you can block my creatures. You're dead anyways. I don't care. Yeah, this deck is on. So for Magus Lucia Kane, we were very much at the top of bracket 3, and I tried to rebuild her down, but I've always found that it's not fun anymore. The thing I want to do with Magus Lucia Kane is abuse the fact that you can stack this trigger as many times as you want, which is insane to me. they know how to word this such that this trigger shouldn't stack, but they just did not do that. Like you can use this trigger to cast, like we'll get down, like going down to, you can use that trigger to cast the Magerite Stone, and it'll still be waiting for your next X spell, which is like, I don't know why. I don't know why I can like sequence tap Magus Lucia Kane 2 lands into Kiora, untap Magus Lucia Kane in the land, tap Magus Lucia Kane and that land, and then my 3rd land and play Open the Way, and I get 4 or 3 Open the Way. It's like I don't know why we structured this card to let me do that, because like Wizards of the Coast knows how to structure this card such that does not happen. Like that's not what happens. Like this wording, but you know that this is the way that they did it, and I don't make the cards. I just abuse them. Zero, yes. Your Zero deck, that seems like a good deck that for Whip and Veto. That Zero deck, like kind of a grindier thing. The Veto can like give you that longevity, or the Whip can give you that longevity. That was another place I ran Whip a lot, was just like kind of mid-rangey lists, and it's just like, listen, the life can be. I don't like running life gain for life gain's sake a lot of the time, but in more weirdly like mid-range, like really almost control level creature lists, I run Whip sometimes just on like getting me. Usually it's a deck that takes a while to build up, so I might eat a lot of damage in the early game, and Whip can kind of help stabilize me in a mid game that still needs to get aggressive, because I'm not like a full control deck trying to keep the board completely clear all the time forever. Yeah, it really does. This deck, but I love this deck. I get into this weird space with this deck because I love the thing that it's doing. I think it's really fun. I think it's really cool. I'm really happy to what level I've optimized it to. But it's really hard to find pods for it. And I love so many Teamer Commanders that come out, because they have a lot of interest. I'm not talking about Grand Lotus Iroh. That card is snooze boring. But I mean, it's super cool if you've never played against Lear for 6 years or 4 years, whenever the hell Crimson Vow came out. I played against Lear enough. I saw Teamer Lear. I'm like, oh, this is Teamer Lear. Okay. And then everyone built it as Teamer Lear. And that's the world. But there are a ton of Teamer Commanders that I see all the time that I want to build, new and old. And I have such a hard time finding pods for this specific deck. So it's always one of those decks that I'm like, do I keep it? Because I only keep one deck per color pairing. So I'm like, do I keep it? Do I go away from it? It's really hard to keep in mind exactly what I want to be doing. But I've been sticking with it. But yeah, it does struggle to find pods all the time. Okay. I keep talking and I getting into how the deck actually works. So for people who have not watched the video, I also don't go super in-depth on the deck. But the video goes into, I'm trying to pair up X-cost spells with untap effects to stack this ability on Magus Lucia Kane as much as I possibly can into this like one big spell that's going to just like dominate the board. So that's going to be like an Apocalypse Hydra, or we like things with like haste. This deck actually uses the Ravenous mechanic super duper well. Duh, the card that came. The commander for the Ravenous deck uses the Ravenous mechanic really well. Who would have guessed? It's a mystery. But it uses it very well because it allows kind of what I was talking about, that web of effects video. These cards get to simultaneously be my threats while also being my card draw. Like, so I'm never I can go forward. I'm going forward when I present these. That's why this deck can just like, I get board wiped. Okay, go again, go again, go again. Because like between these and down here we've got in the enchantments, we've got like this effect and these like groups uprising elemental bond style effects. All the cards I'm playing are just drawing me the next card I have to go with, the next card. So I'm never actually out of cards. I will, every time you've board wiped me, you're not actually going up on card advantage. You're still going up on tempo, right? Because presumably your cards, but you're not even that far up on tempo, right? Because if I still have more cards in hand, and if I've been able to leverage my Magus Luciacane into a Kiora or a Kiora, I like Kiora a lot, or like obviously Awaken or like a Animist Awakening or a Doppelgang on my lands or an Open the Way, or just like some of these untapped effects already in play. This card's crazy, by the way. Like, you can board wipe me, but I still have more mana, and because of these, I still have more cards. So like, when you board wipe me, and this is why in fair pots it's really hard for this deck to be dealt with, because if I do get the one turn that I really need, I am at that point set up to just keep demanding answers. Turn after turn after turn, I'm going to demand answers over and over and over and over again. And it's really hard for people to find an opening or create openings that this deck can't deal with. It generally just boils down to murder the shit out of Magus Luciacane as fast as humanly possible. But usually after if you do that one time, I just switch to setting up all of these enchantments first, and then I just try and play Magus Luciacane when I already have my untappers out. And I'm just like, okay, she's coming on the same turn that I'm doing everything else. And also, like, if we're all on fair game plan, spending your turn 3 or turn 2 or whatever, killing my Magus Luciacane instead of doing what you want to do, well, now you're fucked, because everyone else, your turn 3, you killed my Magus Luciacane. The other 2 players played their super advantage commanders. And now what are you going to do about them? Like, those commanders are out now, and I'm just going to switch over to my enchantments and my artifacts and getting those out. And then you're going to just, like, you're going to be put in the same no-win position, which is kind of what happens with this deck, is that it kind of puts the players who want to answer it in this, like, really tough spot. But if you don't immediately answer it, it's going to run everyone over, because it's just going to over and over and over again be able to present wins. And so that creates kind of a weird dichotomy for finding pots. But I also don't quite know how to tune down what it's doing without ruining like the thing that I want to be doing. I want to be, I mean, there's a world, right, where I just like get the new Roshin maybe. Telling us there's no hope before playing it. There is hope, right? I found good pods for it occasionally, but yeah, this one is like in a weird place. I don't know if this is in the Discord. It's in one of the. Can I put it in the chat in a way that's like pinned in any reasonable manner? I have no idea how any of this works. I can post it here in the chat for y'all. That is the link to the Mox field. Can I pin that? Is there a way to pin? Yes, I can pin that. Haha. Sorry to just be talking about this list that you guys can't look at and are just kind of staring at like half of. There's the list. It's pinned at the top. You guys can look at it when we switch on to another list. I can pin the new list. Magic of modern technology. Yeah, community. There is hope. You can find pods for it. But yeah, I have had a lot of experiences with this deck that would fall into. I think I've talked about. One of the things, pub stomping is. Perfect. Yeah, you can. My Mox Field's linked everywhere. This is my top list, so it's like not the hardest one to find, but this is we gotta. Listen, I gotta learn a scalable solution here at the start. That's why this is a test stream. This is a beginning stream, right? So I can learn all this stuff. Especially since like in the future we should be reviewing in the next one we're gonna be reviewing patron decks, which are not going to be on my obviously not on my Mox Field. Not even all of them are on Mox Field. So like, which means I'm gonna have to get used to Archidect's UI, which I hate, but you know, I'll suffer. I know a lot of people swear by Mox Field or Archidect, and I have no reasonable statement to bring you over to Mox Field other than I don't like how Archidect looks and I hate their tagging, their automatic tagging. But that's not a. But it's outside of that, that's like personal irritation, you know. It's just like in my opinion. So like, use Archidect if you want to. It's not like they're paying me money or anything. All that being said, yeah, you can find this deck falls into a lot of pub stopping is perception. It's not one thing I think I talk about in the gameplay video when I talk about this deck is that people don't know what the average game with your deck looks like. They know with what the deck they just or the game they just played looks like. That's all they have. That's their only point of reference for like how you're doing or like what your deck is. So pub stomping ends up becoming much more of a feeling about how a singular game played and much less of a feeling about much less like a rigid structure. It's one of the reasons I do like the bracket system is kind of like really trying their best to subordinate power levels as much as they can as like a central message, even though it's going to be the default way everyone's going to talk about it. That's inevitable. But I like that they try to force it down. And the feeling of pub stomping comes from like a couple things, in my experience at least. One, like a feeling that you and we're gonna get into this in the next video. Pub stomping comes from kind of this lack of individual agency that your individual plays were not able to affect the outcome of the game. Now, because this like goes to that like, I'm not pub stomping because I didn't win because 3 players banded together. Well, yeah, but that's because 3 players needed collectively all of their decisions. If you think about it, it took all 3 of them to outweigh you. So they had 1/3 the agency over the game that you did because they needed to coordinate 3 players worth of decisions to overrule you. It's not like mathematically that neat, but that kind of gives one of those perceptions is like part of it is how much does my removal, does my game plan help affect the game? Another thing about pub stomping is players want to feel like they can have a reactive answer or a proactive answer to beating you. They want to be able to have the option, I can just outscale you. And if it doesn't feel like they have that option, that they have to play reactively, they're going to feel pub stomped because you cut off one of their avenues of play. Even if their deck is this is why the just run removal argument isn't very good, because you can stick everyone in a reactive position and they could probably even beat you out of that reactive position, especially if you're playing against a player who's better than you. But they have to make, you have forced their hand, they have to make those decisions now. They can't make, you've cut off whatever percentage of their game plan might have been proactive until they've dealt with you. So again, that is that loss of agency, which is what a lot of pub stomping feels like, is loss of agency for a substantial portion of the game. Which gets to my last one that I think I bring up in the video, is when you win way over the top of everybody, if you go really, really big, or you win if the game actually ends after the point at which, hi math bros, we're talking about what makes feelings of pub stomping, which is like, my last point is like, if you win well after the point, if the game actually ends well after the point that you've won, I think I talk about this in the context of control decks, that like, with a control deck a lot of the time, once they've got their late game card draw engine, like once I've got my Council for my Howling Mind, I have 7 board wipes, 12 counter spells. I haven't won right there, but if I get to pass the turn with all my mana up, and God forbid, like a flash enabler, that game is over. That game's not going to end for 3 more turns, but the game at that point is over. And it gives it'll give the players, again, going back to that lack of agency, for the next 3 or 4 turns, their agency is effectively 0. And if those 3 or 4, if it's a 10-turn game, that means for 30% of the game, they had no agency whatsoever, which makes them feel like they've been pub stomped. This is also, I think, one of the reasons people really don't like control. Like, it's not just that it prevents them from doing things, it is, for an extension of the game, cutting off their agency of the game by saying, no, you cannot. And this falls in that last category because, like, you're going way over the top. This deck just goes way over the top, so it's just these big, massive blowouts. But massive blowouts you can see coming. A lot of the time, I don't have haste, so I have to pass. But I've drawn enough cards that my relatively few protection effects are just, like, enough that it's like, it doesn't fucking matter, man. Like, you can have whatever you want. It doesn't matter. I'm going to untap and I'm going to win. Even if you answer all of these creatures I've deployed, I'm just going to deploy another one next turn. Like, and it creates this, like, fruitless endeavor that it doesn't, like, why am I even fucking playing? Even if you, like, narrowly scooch me out, it felt like it, and those against the odds can feel nice, but, like, sometimes they can feel bad. Which is why I do, that's all to say that this deck can be prone. One warning for this deck is it can prone to be feeling very pub stompy on those bases, that it forces your opponents into a very reactive position. It will keep them in that reactive position for an extended period of time, and it will go way over the top of them. They are going to need, like, when it's going to win, it's going to, as shown in the video that this deck is shown in, it's going to win by a country mile. I'm not, like, barely killing you. I'm going to crush you underneath my boot. Decided the tempo and forced the 3-player reactive game on to reactive game team. Yeah, that's, and, like, what is your general opinion? Now, this is all to say, aren't fun. Yeah, feelings of hopelessness are, you want, games are supposed to be a story. I do talk about this. I don't like it as, like, it's just D&D, we're all telling a story together, but games are a story. I do think that that's part, especially in Commander, games are a story. And everyone wants to be able to be the narrator at some point, and we want the drama, right? When stories set up a path and march down that path exactly, with no blips and no wobbles side to side, or not, at least nothing that makes you substantially feel like anything's going to change, those stories are boring. And, like, sometimes those stories are really frustrating, especially stories that, like, set up, but you can think about it as, like, your hand is setting up an alternative version of the narrative. So stories that march down, like, a really safe path, but have clear alternatives that would have been more interesting, i.e. a game where one player takes over and has all the agency while you look at the cards you could have played if they had not done that, are frustrating. Those are frustrating stories, and people get very, very, very mad about them. And this is exactly the same in Commander games, which is why that lack of agency, that lack of hopefulness, really is very frustrating. Unless that is the story you came down to tell. Yes, the games, each game is a story, and in my version of the story, I win. And in your version of the story, you win. And in his version of the story, he wins. And in her version of the story, she wins. Like, that's that's kind of the idea I use as, like, a starting point. Yeah, you don't want to be a background character. You don't want to be like you don't want to be a red shirt, right? From Star Trek, where it's just like, yeah, he's here, but if anything bad happens, he's not doing anything. Yeah. Players who, and, like, that is one thing about control that can be fun for really experienced players. You're hitting on that right, Math Bro, is exactly. Control decks start feeling fun again when you feel like you can think your way out of it. You can get out of it. When it's a puzzle, a lot of the people who I know who are very good at this game or are generally pretty down for playing against control decks see control decks as a puzzle they have to solve. That which is a good way to think about control. Beating a control matchup. A control matchup is solving the puzzle of, like, this person has put me in this bad position. How do I navigate my way out of this bad position they've. I do not know red shirts by John Skulls. Skullsy. I know red shirts from as the general term from Star Trek. I'm so sorry. But yeah, the control decks can feel fun to play against again. Once you realize that this is a puzzle, you have to outsmart the control player, and once you've done that, you can get out of their grip and you can kill them. You can like find little holes that they found. Right? Yeah, it's a good story that's a good underdog story, right? And that's why beating control decks when you do have that mentality actually feels so good, right? You've bested this antagonist. That's like textbook storytelling right there, right? That there's this big antagonist who controls the world, this authoritarian antagonist, and through your good wits, you have found a chink in their armor and you've taken them down. Like that is. The red shirts deserve to be the protagonist. This is kind of that, right? Where you were a red shirt, right? You were under the complete control. You had nothing you could do. But like by pure wit, you have now become the protagonist of the game. You have taken them down. You've regained control over the game. That's really important, and that's why beating control can feel really fun. Once you've adopted that's why a mentality switch can make playing against control actually a very fun experience. Like I love playing with and against control. What's up with the tainted pact? I don't play a lot of basics. I almost never play basics. Or I play enough basics that I like can get away with it. Yeah, I have one of each basic in this deck. Yeah. Right. This deck isn't searching basics for any. If I'm searching for basics, I'll up my basic count. But this deck isn't searching for basics for any reason. And so every basic land I run is a land that doesn't do something for me. It doesn't make me multiple colors. It doesn't draw me cards. It doesn't. What are other? I think I only have the one MDFC in here. No, I've got 4 MDFCs, right? Like I've got 4 lands that are also spells. It doesn't counter a spell. It doesn't remove blockers. It doesn't draw me cards again. It doesn't. Whereas it doesn't give my creatures haste. It doesn't act as removal. It doesn't give me trample. It doesn't give me tons and tons of mana. It doesn't untap my commander. I thought I had him in ammo. Okay. It doesn't untap my commander, right? These are like all things that my non-basics give to me. These are all things I need, and my non-basics just allow me to get all of those things. Yeah, it is to counter boil. I need to counter boil, so I run a bunch of not blue land or blue sources that are not basics. No, I don't. I'm a basic enjoy. I think I talk about this in the Lands of Your Deck video. If you want to run a basic heavy mana base, like landfall decks, I up my basic count really as high as I can. Feasible. I try to like maximize my basic count because then I have a lot of cards to fetch. I talk about in that deck running something like Traverse the Outlands. Traverse the Outlands, an astounding reason to run a high basic count. But like I need a reason to run a high basic count. Usually having to do with like high basic counts give you access to incredibly powerful ramp spells. That you just don't. But they've been printing stuff like this deck is like Awaken the Woods. This is a ramp spell. I promise to God, this is a ramp spell. I've talked about this. This copying lands. It's a ramp spell. I have this. Right. These are. I'm ramping with this. I'm ramping here. I'm ramping in my commander. I'm not ramping with basics, so I don't need basics. So, but if previous versions of the deck had Spore Assist in here, and at that point my basic count was 12, I think. I want to say it was 12. It might have been 13. Win condition. Yeah, Doppelganger is a win condition, combo enabler, ramp spell. I love this card. This card fills so many stupid roles for the low cost of producing a truly obscene amount of mana. You do need a lot of mana for it. Half lands. Yeah, like having a ton of lands can be something you take advantage of. 1 second, my partner is wanting my attention. What's up? Doppelganger plus Archaeomancer. Dude, so much plus Archaeomancer. Archaeomancer is one of my favorite cards. Just like, hey guys, you're gonna be locked in the Archaeomancer room. We're gonna experience this card for the next forever until you concede. I run Flicker and Popper to loop with Archaeomancer. I talk about all the time using Archaeomancer plus Evacuation as like a personal love of mine. even though I don't do it much anymore for that aforementioned reason of like, hey, I'm going to take away everyone's agency forever, but I actually have no direct ability to win. Even if it's a play pattern I personally love, and I do like see it as I can read the runes. You can read the runes as many times as you want if you can get Archaeomancer and Ephemerate just over and over again, as much as you want. Just fire over and over and over again. You can read the runes every turn, all your mana. Just send it back and forth. I'm gonna one day just gonna add read the runes to this deck. This deck hates read the runes because like I'm really trying to keep my hand full for the next board wipe and the next board wipe and the next board wipe. But I at some point I'll put it in here just for you. Just for you, we'll run the read the runes just so I can send you the screenshot or the picture of me copying read the runes like 6 times and having my deck myself and accomplish nothing. Yo, wait, I could not deck myself and sackle my lands. That's so true. Not my basics though. I gotta keep those. But yeah, so to go back to the conversation on the mana base here. Basic. That's why my basic count is so low. I don't need basics. I don't hate basics by default, but if I'm not running basics for a reason, I'm not running basics. Because I'm not going to play against like Blood Moons and stuff regularly, I don't need to insulate my mana base, and so I don't do that. It's value left on the table, right? But if I have a reason to run basics, like I said, Spore Assist used to be in this deck. When Spore Assist was in this deck, I pumped my basics down to like 12 because like then it's really important. It's important to always have a basic I can go get, and I can fill out these cards if I need to. So it is all about understanding what cards are in your deck, what your deck needs, and that will help you figure out. Sorry, my brain entirely stopped. That'll help you figure out what you need in your mana base, right? Why are basics good? Whether or not you should pump your basic count, or whether or not you should pump your non-basic count. What kind of non-basic should you run? Right? We were talking about Reliquary Tower in the Discord the other day. Running tons of Reliquary Towers is important. Or can be important, or it can be completely useless. It's all up to what deck are you playing. gotta get Elliot. Yeah, listen. I'm a lover of Blood Moon. And you should punish. I deserve to be punished for my insatiable greed. I have also personally found that so many players are struggling enough with their mana bases how it is. It's it's a travesty. We don't need to make it harder for them. We don't need to make it harder for them. They're already struggling. I've played Blood Moon against 5-color decks with like the tri-lands from Cons, and I felt so bad. That deck did nothing. The whole game it just sat in the corner twiddling its thumbs. Just like 3 tap lands into them playing 3 tap lands into my turn 3 Blood Moon, and I beat them to death with Karlach. Like I don't need the help. But I do need to be punished for my insatiable greed. That's fair. It's why I like just like Blood Moon is fine if I'm like given a heads up. Like even this deck is fine with Blood Moon. Those are my cards. I mean, I'm a little overly greedy, but as long as I have like a mana dork and I know the Blood Moon's coming, I can make sure to fetch one of my basics. Then it's fine. I don't really care. You can run whatever you want. That's another thing. It's just like that's talking about with Blood Moon is it's fine if I know what's coming, because then I could play around it. Like I played Modern, I know what decks would sideboard in Blood Moon, and I'd sideboard an extra Forest. Like that was Amulet Titan's such a weird deck, but that is something you would do. And you fetch differently because you know you need to be aware of it, or just like someone turn 1 played a Ragavan. This was when like Blue Moon was a deck. Turn 1 playing a Ragavan off of Steam Vents. Okay, for the rest of this game, I need to be aware of my basic count. You just need to know that. And that's not something you get in Commander, which is one of the balancing factors on like Blood Moon being a fair card in those things. In those formats. And it's just like not present here in Commander because there's a couple command, like if you put down a Zozu the Punisher, like I know what's up. There's a Blood Moon in here, like obviously. But like if you put down Mizzix of the Ismagus, are you running Blood Moon? I mean, maybe. Maybe you just want the extra time. Maybe it's not worth it. I don't know. It's impossible for me to tell that thing until I get hit by Blood Moon. So so I'm not aware that I need to be like playing around that. And that's kind of the main issue with negative play pattern cards like that, is the forecasting nature of it. Which is why if anyone ever sits down with me and says, "Hey, I've got Blood Moon in this bracket 3 deck, are we good to play?" I'll say yes. Yeah, it's fine. That's one thing I like about the system, is like you can just tell me. And for so much of me balancing the university Discord that I run is just like has been just like trying to explain the things of the bracket system explained so immediately. Like, hey, can you just announce these things? Tell us that you have these things. I don't care that you have them. Could you just tell me that you have them so that I know to bring a deck that can deal with it, or just when I'm playing to know that this is what's up. This is the game we're playing. Like that's all it is I just want to know, because when I talk about this, it's always just like I'm feeling like I've been cheated. Anytime that I've like tilted out in a Commander game and like felt pub stomped personally, and I've talked to other people, it's this like feeling of being cheated out of that agency we're talking about earlier, right? You got cheated out of that agency because they didn't communicate correctly. They didn't tell you what their deck was, so you didn't have the opportunity to pick a deck that would have worked. And that's what the brackets do, I think, really well, is tell you what to talk about, what to tell people you have. And then you can sort it out from there, right? It's not just like I don't want to. But that also only works if everyone has like a plethora of options, right? There is the situation has a plethora of options, or the confidence to say no. It's one thing that I've always not liked about Rule Zero. I don't have a solve for it, but just like it has no solve for social pressure. What if, we're talking about the one dude, I think, Unlucky, earlier, that like comes to your LGS and always 3v1s everyone, and like, what do you do to tell that guy, hey man, could you just like play something else, please, so that we can get along? Like, maybe they're a nice dude, and that works fine. But maybe they're not. Maybe they're not a nice guy. They kind of get combative about it, and you don't want to. That's not what you want to do with your Friday evening. You don't want to argue with some dude in an LGS because he doesn't think the bracket system's very cool, and he thinks you're just a bitchy, whiny Commander player. Like, I don't want to have that argument on my Friday. I don't think most people want to have that argument on their Friday. What do you do with that? Which is why we need more judges. Unironically, because that's kind of the actual solve for this. They should have banned social pressure. That's so true. That is banning. Ristic Study is banning social pressure. Oh my god, the draw problem in CDH is getting so bad. It's getting so bad. The tournament I was at this last weekend, 33% of matches ended in a draw. It's getting bad, guys. It's bad. Like, CDH itself is a fun format to play. I really advocate that you all try it out. But tournament CDH, it's in a state, and it's been in this state for a bit, and I hate it. I hate it so much. But listen, I don't know what the solve there is. Unironically, a really good solve, or a really good way that to make brackets really helpful to go along with the D&D analogy. I almost wanted to talk about this in my brackets video, but I thought it would derail things a little bit. I'm not doing anything on the screen. Thank you guys for just listening like a podcast here. I'm not doing anything visually interesting. Let me just move my I'm gonna just scroll up and down. One thing that makes the bracket system work a lot better is to have. This is one thing that, like, I know I'm insulated against because I am this person, of having like the group DM, like someone who is trusted for their level of knowledge and is generally loud enough and like confrontational but not combative, right? Like confrontational or not combative in such a way that you can, like, they can be the arbiter of like power and brackets and stuff, that they can to have that one person who is just trusted in that way to know what, hey, I'm going to try and play this. What do you think they should try and play? Or when we go to LGSs, a lot of my friends, like, someone will say, oh, I'm playing like slightly upgraded Wilhelm precon. I'd be like, do you know the Puppet Stitcher Infinite? And they're like, what's Puppet Stitcher? I'm like, okay. And they look at me and it's like, you should play this, this, or this. Like, having one person who is very knowledgeable and very trusted to guide the whole system down can be really, really, really helpful. We have some Subway Surfers on the yeah. Just put up some Subway Surfers gameplay. Yeah, because I am. Listen, I think I'm doing a good job of continually talking the whole time, but it's hard for me to talk and read and do things on the screen all at the same time. This is my ADHD is not. I got the focus ADHD, the one that's like I can do one task really, really, really well, and forget to eat for 3 days. Trusted record. Yeah, like it's hard because like building out a guideline is the thing that always happens with stores. I've tried to help this. I had a store that ran a pre-con league that you could like change 5 cards each time, and when you make something written down. Writing on the wall doesn't have a vibe check, like we were talking about at the beginning of the stream, right? It's all vibes. It's all vibes the whole way down. Kind of like the U.S. legal system right now. Like when you like you see these arguments in like court or whatever. Like I think Austria this is the U.S., but Austria just ruled that like loot boxes are not gambling. It's like how, or just in America, right? Like the prediction markets aren't gambling. We're predicting the outcome of the Super Bowl and paying people who correctly predicted the outcome of the Super Bowl. Shut up. Like, no, you're not. And stop. Like, it's the vibe check. It's the like, no, it's not. And you're not engaging with this in good faith and shut up. And when you write something down, people figure out little nooks and crannies they can weave themselves between and crack the whole system. And so at the end of the day, you just need a person. You need a person that everybody trusts to just be like, hey man, no, like you're not, I get it. Very clever wording, very clever solution. No. And it's a surprise mechanic. That's like an old meme, but like, no, they just ruled it. It involves skill, picking what loot boxes technically have the best EV. Very stupid. Or, no. They said that it had to be considered as a holistic offering of the product. And the product on net average is skill-based. Even with the loot boxes as a part of the product. So it's not gambling. Which is stupid. It's stupid. Like you need, like it's just like you need someone with just common sense to walk in and be like, no. Not just like, I know common sense is like always used to be like, or a lot of the time can be used to like reinforce just hegemonic thinking. But like you do need like, you need someone to be like, this was the purpose of this. This is what we're trying to say. You know what we're trying to say. I know what we're trying to say. Stop trying to circumvent the system. Please. Yeah, just like a, hey man, cut the BS. Down to earth here. Very, very clever. No. You don't. Yeah. Oh, I just hit my mic. I hope I didn't shock your ears. No. But yeah, it's so that's the big thing. I do, Roboto, I do wish you best of luck in your endeavor for your bracket guidelines for your store. But like, and this is what a judge is really good for. If you have your judge be this, for your store, be this person. The judge system, I'm hoping they just hired a new coordinator for judges at Wizards. So hopefully the judge system will like get official backing and a whole system under it, structure under it again. Because like judges for like, so for the longest time, how we handled this was effectively FNM. FNM was like casual commander, and everyone thinks that like standard is dramatically different than commander. And it's because standard at this point is all competitive. The casual standard, FNM standard, used to exist, and that is just what FNM commander is now. Like you could bring, okay, this is my box of commons or my thematic deck from Bloomborough, and like you would probably lose to like Sweaty Joseph or whatever. But you might win a game or two and you'd have fun for the night. And like, because, and then there's Tony, and like Tony's been playing Ponza for 20 years and like refuses to play any deck that is remotely engaged with in the standard meta. So he's always on a pile. Like this used to exist and then now it's dead. And one of the things that helped with that was like the judging program. And so a judge can be a nice, good, to get this back to the point, can be a good like central figure to help with that kind of stuff. To be like, this is the final arbiter of like, hey man, no. Because at the end, I do support that you should like write out guidelines for your store for what it means no to you, but like the buck should stop at someone to be like, if someone's like they're pub stomping, they could go talk to somebody, and that somebody they trust to give a yes or no, and then that person can say, no, this is in bracket 4, or yeah, man, this is kind of bracket 4. You should not play this next week. Like, and it has to be someone that both trust. And then the system works really, really, really well. But that's not always available, and it's hard. It's a hard thing to get someone who's like this neutral party that everyone's going to just generically trust. And like, especially when like there's tempers are going to be involved, right? I feel bad. You just pub jumped me. What do you mean? What do you mean it's a skill check, the skill issue that I lost? No, he curved out. He won on turn 5. The bracket system says turn 7 right here, and like people are you need someone who's like, they're gonna be angry, and you need someone who's like, they're going to trust to diffuse them. Most discussions of like Magic community building can be boiled down to, we need more judges. Yeah, if you're gonna be like the central arbiter and you're like a well-known, hi Eleanor, hi Moth, everyone say hi to Moth. If you're like a well-known person in your community, in your store, hopefully this will work. This isn't to say that like you're undergoing an impossible task. This is just going to be like, hey, you're gonna need to know that like there needs to be the stat, and that authority could be you, that could be the store owner, that could be the person facilitating the event, but like someone needs to be a final arbiter of just being that. I think a lot of our lives feel like we're under these systems that are accountable to no one, and we can't demand answers from in any reasonable way. And so it's always good to, if you're going to institute like a hierarchical system that like determines something, to just have someone that feels accountable, that people can come talk to, and like can sit down and explain it with them, and they're going to listen to, and like they'll feel listened to. Because there's so much of life that's just like, yeah, man, shit out of luck. Do you want to talk to this AI chatbot for the next 2 hours? It will solve nothing. Scream into the void for 20 minutes. If that doesn't make you feel better, is that going to make you feel worse? Oh, well, shit out of luck, man. So that's all to say that like being the intended final arbiter is like a good help. How can we demand answers in mono blue? How could we demand answers? You could lock everyone in a room of counter spells. You can't do anything. See, like it aims to win turn at turn X. Like I know I can admit that I made a video on this. I used to be that person where it's like, okay, this is casual commander night. We can't win till turn 6. Okay, I'm gonna hold 6 counter spells and set up an infinite combo that will win on my turn and pass for 2 turns. Like I used to be that person. And I relished in the endless game of whack-a-mole of trying to figure that like every time they banned one of the things I did. I'm not like super proud of doing that. It's very antisocial behavior. You shouldn't do it. But like, I know plenty more people who are just gonna like, and it's natural that that's going to be something people do. Yeah, it's a whole thing about learning more about myself, and like that, just because I can win at the stupid card game does not mean that I am in fact smarter or better than other people. But like some people feel that way, or some people just like feel smart about outsmarting the system. But yeah, the spirit of the rule, you need an embodiment of the spirits. Spirits only matter if the bird did touch crap. Bird learned to be a less. I go into it a little bit. I use sports psychology so that people would not be mad at me, but Bird read gender theory is what Bird did. Bird learned about masculinity in like a reasonable manner and became a better person, and learned about himself because of that, and became a better person, or at least a more willing to be wrong person who could actually grow. Yes, something. Players will always optimize the fun out of it. Players will always optimize. Players want to optimize the fun out of systems is the main thing. They won't always do it, but if there's an opportunity for that to happen, they will choose the optimal option over the fun option. They'll always do it. If the optimal option is not the fun option, they will choose the optimal one. Forever and always. And it sucks, but that is what's going to happen. Dude, this is one thing that frustrates people. The more you're willing to be wrong, the more that they think that you're smarmy and like that you're like, the more they think you're smarmy and stubborn, because the critical turn is a good turn, but because whenever I'm wrong, I've talked about this with my partner. Whenever I'm wrong, it's just immediately done because I just admit that I'm wrong and move on with my life. Or like I tell the person that they're right, and then I in the future synthesize their like I synthesize whatever thing that they have taught me into my future analysis. So next time I'm going to be right is the main thing, right? You immediately accept when you're wrong. You're right more often. And then because of that, I know I'm right because I know I'm willing to be wrong. So I know that I'm right when I am right. So I'll dig my fucking heels in when I know I'm right. So I spend all of this time being right and so little time being wrong that it makes me feel condescending, despite the fact, or like feel stubborn, despite the fact that I am a very like if you prove me wrong about something, I will be immediately okay with it. I'll just be like, oh, dude, you're so right. That was so correct. Or just like, oh, I didn't even think about it that way, or I haven't seen something that way. That is a different, like, that is this perspective that's just like been out of my purview. But it makes it so that people get frustrated. So like, you spend so much time arguing with me when I'm wrong because I can't accept the fact that I'm wrong, and then you never let me rub it in on you when you're wrong. But it's a good way to be right more often. Dude, spice is awesome. It's flavorful. It's delightful. For flavorful to lose. All right. Let us. I believe in in optimizing the system. All right. I have been on tangents about my philosophy and the bracket system and stuff. Does anyone actually want to like hear anything about that? I've described the deck, which is that we're trying to untap Magus Lucia Arcane as many times as possible, and preferably slam something with either haste, so I can immediately attack with it, or Ravenous, so that I can redraw my cards to inevitably kill my opponents. Does anyone want to like learn more about the deck that I've had on screen for an hour and 10 minutes? I yap. Oh my god, I yap. Yeah, we were reviewing a deck. Remember, I'm supposed to be reviewing this. I promise that when you guys send in your decks, I will be focusing on the deck review. The big thing is that this is my deck, so I don't know the things that you all want to know. I can walk through what I consider like my ramp break. Like you can see the ramp break point here, right, where I've got all of my look at how little 3-mana ramp I have, which is to say basically none. I have this is like vaguely 3-mana ramp, but like not really. This is vaguely 3-mana ramp, but not really. This is 3-mana ramp, but like this is clearly here for another reason. But yeah. Read children's book about monsters and shields. There's a deck on it. Yeah, there's a deck been on screen this whole time. I don't. The percentage of lands that come into play tapped. I am not actually particularly good at building out mana bases. I just I proxy deck. Notice this is my collector track. I do own the whole deck. This is one thing you'll notice is that like this is why all the printings are what they are. You'll notice my decks are like horribly expensive. Part of that is these dual lands. But part of it is just like I'm putting in my prettiest printings of my stuff. Right, this is a $30. You do not need to run $30 Nature's Lore. You do not need to run $100 Badger Mole Cup. You do not need to run $33 Kiora. Like these cards have cheaper printings. You can run the cheaper ones. But I usually just throw really expensive lands, and then I will just run my Triome and my where are they? Surreal lands, and that's kind of it. Nothing else in this deck comes into play tapped. I just don't play tapped lands. I don't need to. I'm not going to. So I don't I don't run. So the short answer is I don't know how to manage the percent of tap lands because I don't do that because I don't run them. I generally try to keep when I am in my like 4 and 5 color decks that Triomes and Surveils do get to like a sizable percent. I try to keep them below 6. Is usually my number. I pushed to 8 a couple times and it can get a little irritating. Oh no, rambling while deck reviewing. It's more rambling while a deck is on the screen and I occasionally acknowledge it and then start rambling again. It is much easier. I can focus on 2 of the 3 things I need to be doing, which is looking at the deck, looking at the chat, and speaking. I can choose 2 of those things that I can focus on. I have 1 for my mouth and 1 for my eyes. But anyways, you can make a good podcast. I will not confirm or deny whether or not I've talked with anyone about making any podcasts. This is what you get for now. You can't type Jesus? That's funny. Oh no, you just can't type. Sorry. Can't type comma Jesus. I thought it was censoring Jesus. I'm like, why? Elevator has like low-key Elevator might have to come out of my bracket 2 decks. This card has been kinda insane every single time I've cast it. It's like really a problem. This is a common misconception. It actually costs 17 mana. Actually, that's the common misconception. It costs 6 mana, and I copied it 4 times with Magus again. Or 8 mana, sorry. This is very common misconception. It is hard to read the words of Magus Luciacane while looking at Doppelgang. But I promise that the copy effect is on the Doppelgang. Sorry, every time. X is 0, and I don't actually even know how I it's like this is the curve of the deck, but yeah, this is X is 0 all the time. I don't know. There's a world where sometimes I like evaluate my X costs in a more realistic manner. This is not one of those worlds. This deck just like shits mana so prolifically. This commander tapping for 2 mana is like actually crazy. Like just makes it so that the mana in the deck is so consistent that I've never felt the need to optimize it to the point of actually figuring out what is the optimal X value for any of these cards. It is something you should do. I've just not felt the need to do it in this deck. Like I said, I'm not. Listen, I talk about being very intentional in your deck building, and I stand and live by that. But I also, a lot of the time it's just like, yeah, this card looks good. I really engage a lot of the things I talk about when it gets to the stage of like, okay, this deck isn't working, or like I need 20 cuts, or like stuff like that is where we like really start to break into like the rigidity of like, okay, what does this deck mean? The what does the deck mean thing I always do. I always start with that. I'm always like very strongly opinionated about like what is the purpose of my deck. But like when it gets to like, okay, how many of this effect do I need? How many cards am I drawing? Like that kind of stuff gets into when we're getting to that like cutting phase, or like, oh, this deck feels like it doesn't have enough cards in it. The last time you mentioned Zach was when I asked you about your Tainted Pact mana base. Yeah, that is definitely up at the top. Here, give me a second. I need to talk more aggressively, and then I shut up because I'm trying to read. God, reading and talking at the same time is really hard. I am, but yeah. Sorry to get back on a roll here. What are some cards that are just your favorites? This card, Fox. This card's awesome. If you've ever gotten to play with it, this card is crazy. I love this card. Do you think the issue is that you're too familiar with the deck? Maybe Goldfish it wants to let us see how it plays. I could super Goldfish this deck, but let me get into some of the cards that I personally love. Fnatic Frotis, Fox. Fox hard. Card's crazy. For cards that I love and don't fuck, Roshin Meanderer, I have been... so this deck is loosely based on the 3rd ever Magic deck I built, which was Xenagos, God of Revels, Mana Doublers, and Hydras. That was the whole deck, and that was all it was supposed to be. And when making that deck, I fell in love with Roshin Meanderer. Like, what the fuck is this card? Why does it exist? I love it with all my heart and soul. So a lot of this deck's DNA, that's where the Hydra Broodmaster is from. That's where the Apocalypse Hydra is from, is like that, the bones of that deck from many years yonder. Like that is from 2017 is what that deck is from. But that card I absolutely love with all my heart and soul. Doppelgang, we've talked about to death. And then for cards that I've just and then I got this deck because I got this Unbounding Flourishing. I love psychotic arts in Magic. I love cards you can barely read. I know that other people don't love this because there's a long history of like the usage of enchant or like borders in Magic, and this kind of tosses that all out the window. But it's really really funny. I love crazy art. I'm a big fan of like crazy out there art. So I love these kinds of cards. So the Unbound Flourishing is one of my favorites, and I love it so much. Oh, one last one. I skipped right past it. Expansion Explosion. I've been a diehard fan of this card since it came out. I've loved this card. I have told so many people to run this card who have looked at me like I'm a crazy person. I am not going to tell you it's a good card because I'd be lying. But I love this card so much. Expansion is such a like I fire expansion on like ramp spells really often. It's really nice as that, and an explosion is just such a big effect. I love big effects, big honk. Like I would still call myself a Johnny player, but like big effects make me happy. When I play a card and the whole board revolves around that card, that makes me happy. I it's my talking stick, damn it. So I whenever I get to cast Explosion, it feels sweet. It's so cool. But yeah, those are the cards I really love in this deck. I listen, I optimize for fun. Like I am optimizing for, I say this at the end of the last video, I'm optimizing personally for agency. I just want to make it so I can make as many decisions as possible. Like that's all I want. I'm not optimizing to win. If I want to win, this is a $2,000 deck. You think this is the best way to win with $2,000? No. I think way better decks at this price point with this commander, honestly. But like, I want to have fun. I want to do the thing that I came here to do. And like that is the thing that I am really like I have fun with. All right, we'll mulligan that hand. We can play test this hand because this card is cool. This is kind of a bad hand to keep, but we'll play test this. And we'll go again. There we go. That is a much better hand. We're gonna play this hand. This will be a mull to 6, so this goes to the bottom of the deck. All right. So the reason I'm keeping this hand, right? We got payoffs, but specifically payoffs that draw cards, very important. Incubation Druid is sneakily fucking crazy with Magus Lucia Kane because her first line of text, which basically should be there, very consequently synergizes with the Incubation Druid. Birds just want to have, dude, I just want to have fun. Everyone thinks that I'm like this sweaty gamer. I'm not. I just want to have a good time. All right, so we're gonna do our first turn draw. This is a power move. You must assert to your opponents. You must start on the land that does not make any mana. This is a power. I explain this to people who I play CDH with as trying to train myself to remember these cards don't make mana on turn 1. This is a lie. It's a power move. You assert dominance by playing lands that do not make mana. All right, next turn. All right, we're gonna play a Rejuvenating Springs. Turn 2, we're gonna play this Incubation Druid. Ta-da! Incubation Druid. All right, next turn. And now we are going to play our incredibly powerful play of I play Magus Lucia Kane, and I put a counter on an Incubation Druid. We're going to assume I channel this Boseiju on something. This is turn 3. I don't channel Boseiju. I've tapped this Incubation Druid for Magus Lucia Kane. All right, turn 4. Ooh, Hydro Broodmaster. So we have a couple good options here. I think... So if I'm playing well, I click the turn. I know, I've been clicking the turn number. I do this stuff on my phone, all right? You don't need a backseat gamer me. I didn't click the turn number for like the very, very beginning. Because the first draw. But yeah. All right, is everyone gonna tell me how to? I'm gonna start whipping out hotkeys on all you guys. Look, I can tap. Ooh. Anyways, so if I'm gonna play like really intelligently, let's say I'm afraid of the players I'm playing with, that they're good. I'm gonna hold up this repulsive mutation. But we're gonna assume that I'm just sending it. We're going. So we're gonna cast this. I'm gonna cast. I want Turgid Swarm at this. Nah, I want Hydrocrisis because if I scale more draw, more untaps, it's not gonna do anything. So we're going to play this Hydrocrisis. So base is 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7. So 7 counters on this because of I can count numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're going to copy it because Magus Lucia King gives us 2 of them because this is a fair and balanced magic card. And we're going to also do the right number of clicks because I am on the stream. Half of 7, which is the number of cards we're going to draw, rounded down is 3. So I'm going to draw 3 cards. Ta-da! So we're going to make 14 power on turn 3 very casually. Magus Lucia Kane's going to put a counter on herself. You can tap with hot. Yeah, T is the hotkey. X is the hotkey for copying. I'm magic. I've got my mic in the center. I can technically just plus to do everything. No. I'm gonna. How dare you backseat me? No, it's fine. I don't care. This is the actual reason I love Moxfield. Is Moxfield's playtester, like even on phone, works really, really good. We are up to 7 cards in hand, so we're gonna go to turn 5. But yeah, this is turn 4. I have 14 power on board. You know, very casually, very normal setup. I'm gonna tap this Incubation Druid to play. If you know what this card does, congratulations. If you don't, I'm so sorry. We're not dealing with that. I'm then going to pay 1, 2. We're gonna untap with her. Remove a loyalty to untap the Magus. I'm gonna tap the Magus again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's 9 total mana. I think I'd do the Voracious Hydra. Let's just get, we would just get damage on board. So we are Voracious Hydra. I'm going to copy it 2 times. They're all going to double counters. And they had 7 counters to start. So we're going to just, casually, just going to very casually slam 42 power into play and draw 3 cards. Because that's the top for, as you all know, that you all read Japanese, right? You know what the top of this card does, right? We all read Japanese, right? Engineer math. Yeah. Tell me if I'm going too fast. I can do all these numbers fast, lickety split, which I am aware can be overwhelming. So just tell me if I'm going too fast. And so we're gonna attack for 14. On turn 5, casually. Just casually gonna hit for 14 on turn 5. We're gonna demand a board wipe on turn 5. And now we are this is a bad start, by the way. I've only got 1 untapper. I didn't really get any serious copying effects. My draw is pretty piddling. So this is not a good start. 2 copies. We tapped Magus twice. So I untap Magus with Kiora and tap her again. And for some godforsaken reason, this clause stacks. Why? I have no idea. I could not, for the life of you, tell me why they worded the card this way. But they did. And I'm going to abuse that fact. And then turn 6. So this is the board on turn 6. We're just going to have some fun on turn 6. What do we do? I am going to... So I have lethal on the remainder of the field at this point. So that's cool. But for shits and grins reasons, we can do stuff. We are going to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Right? That's how much mana we have here. Minus this. So we have what? 13 mana. So I could throw that. Fuck it. We throw this. We're gonna copy 2 lands, and we'll copy Kiora because I can. So the 2 lands, and this is X of 3, right? X of 3, 9, 11. So we'll float 2 mana. X of 3. This. So yeah, we're gonna get a new Kiora. This Kiora dies. We'll get a new one. Technically a token copy, and then we're gonna get. Do I get to change the copies with this? Change targets. No, okay. So oh yeah. You may choose new targets. What do I need targets? I don't even care. We're going to. Sorry, trying to figure this out. Nah, I don't care. I'm gonna just the remaining targets are just gonna be all lands. So we're gonna get 1, 2, 3. Oh, untapped. And then we're gonna get 3 of these. 1, 2, 3. So that's gonna be the first resolution, and then we're gonna get 3 of these. Everyone having fun? This is fun, balanced magic. This is what I mean by optimized fare, by the way. And this is the web, everybody. This is what I mean when I say the web of effects. So 3, 3, 3. And we're gonna do that one more time. 3, 3, 3. So I got just a few, just some mana. Just a couple lands. Just 1 or 2 lands and a new Kiora. That Kiora is gonna untap this Magus Lucia can again. Oh, whoops. View bottom card. There it is. Move a counter. We're gonna tap that Magus Lucia cane. I will leave that untapped. Just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm gonna cast this Hydra Broodmaster. Draw a card when it enters. Oh, now we get the untap effect. Cringe. Because I could have copied this a bunch of times. Then we're gonna just activate this for, I don't know, fuck you amounts of mana. I'm gonna hold up a counter spell. Tap that. Just, so what is that? I don't know. I make a zillion dudes, a bajillion, everybody dies, number of dudes. With the monsters on this. I draw whatever the fuck amount I want. and I have I guess I could have actually, it's better to play the Patriarch Seal, untap, and then do this. Draw a bunch, hold up a counter spell, pass. This is what I mean by going way over the top of my opponents, because I killed 2 players here, and also I have 1,000 power in play. This is also, if anyone's wondering why I don't care much for just, like, I vaguely run life gain. I'm making 1,000 power on turn 6. Good job casting Beacon of Immortality. I kill you. So, like, this is kind of, that's why I don't, that's why, like, I don't usually like this. But yeah, this is optimal fare, right? This is still turn 6. I have, like, hundreds of damage. Yeah, like, all right, we get Damnation. Like, I'm not drawing the cards. I draw, like, 100 cards off of this play. I draw 100 cards, but I draw, like, 20-something cards. You wipe me. Okay, I untap. I have this many lands and 20 cards in hand. Like, I don't care. That is one of the things I'm saying is kind of like a problem with this deck, is just like, okay, you board wipe this board. Ignore that this kills a player, or like whatever player I think has a board wipe. Like, they die. Whatever player has a board wipe, they are now dead. But like, let's say that right, you still have a board wipe. I'm not doing it because we're just saying the game is over. I'm getting 3 of this activation on X of like 10. I'm drawing 30 cards. I still have all of this mana. You have board wiped me. I'm so, like, it won't matter. I will still, normal thing that our board wipes are like supposed to win tempo. You don't win any tempo here. I'm still ahead. And that's kind of which is why, yeah, those of you who are remarking, holy crap, is this bracket 3? They're like, yeah. Like, no. Kind of, not really. But like, yes, because like bracket 4, I'm in turn 6. This is not fast enough. This is not remotely fast enough for bracket 4. Like, because I'm still doing fair things. Like, I'm just setting up, ramp spell, big thing, card draw. But like, this is also, what would you say is this deck's weak? That's kind of the problem. Pigeon is like, this deck does not have a very effective weakness, which makes it not a very good, like, that's why it doesn't really belong in bracket 3 very well. There is no, like, there is a weakness, right? You can like kill my taking the tempo loss to immediately snap kill my commander, like, definitely slows me down. Eventually I will just like out ramp you with everything else I'm doing. But like, yeah, you can kill with prejudice on Magus. But like, if you give me, like, you've got to do that on turn 3. Notice, like, every turn after turn 3, I have counter magic up. Like, I'm, like, it's not, you've got to, with prejudice, have my commander dead on turn 3 all the time. Hi, thank you for, I'm glad that you love our channel. We're looking over my decks today, because the patron's new, and we don't have patron decks yet. We do have, because I haven't been able to set everything up, but Yeah, in the future, this should be reviewing patron decks, but we're reviewing this right now. Oh, you've been watching since the beginning of the stream. I can read. I promise I can read. Well, thank you so much. Guessing you never let. Yeah, with greed I can eventually overcome never having Magus. Like this deck, we have played the game where you just king kill Magus forever. I still can win, not even particularly badly. This deck is hard. Like this deck doesn't need Magus. It'll do its other stuff if it really wants to. Like I will just play like a ramp big honkin' dudes plan. Like Hydra Broodmaster is really a really good example of like a card that does not need Magus to make a threatening board with the amount of mana I'm creating. But yeah, it is hard. Any deck with Simic is the enemy of bracket 3 and below. I can show bracket 3, one of my bracket 3 Simic decks. So here we can shift to a different. Does anyone have any more questions or comments, or we want to see another playtest on this thing? My bracket 4 deck was similar. Was it you? Who was it that we were talking about the Gruul? Like I ramp a land commander from Final Fantasy. No Simic shenanigans. Trying to counter this by tutoring Glacial Chasm. Yeah, like you tutor Glacial Chasm. I have Boseiju. Like, also just like I go for Soap and Throw. Actually, so it prevents damage. Like, yeah, I have Boseiju. Like, I just draw through my deck. Like, that's the other side of this. Is like I'm drawing through my deck while I'm doing this. It is hard. I'm not saying this deck is like unbeatable, right? Like, I have lost playing this deck, but this deck currently sits at like a 75-80% win rate on like. Right tonight, I have 1 loss in 9 games, and like you can beat the deck, but it's problematic in its level, and like those are 2 sets of 3 games in a row with players who like know the deck. It's not like, oh, I pub sometime random people and I just like miss it out. Like these are people who are like okay, and like progressively scaling their decks up. And it was basically we got the bracket. The game it lost was to like Storm Corvold that did Gravecrawler loops on like turn 4. It's like that was the deck that eventually beat this one. Which like yeah, that deck should be this one. Better deck, stronger thing. How you really love? Nah, I've drawn my whole deck. I've got all the cards, all the everything in the world. How would you go about that? I would, yeah. Camping Magus could be a good idea. Like a Winds of Abandon Alpha Strike could be like something. So like my Rafine deck might be able to like get an Akroma's Will Alpha Strike underneath it. If I wanted to like beat this deck, but like that's kind of its problem. It's the like outside of my like combo decks or my like really low to the ground, really fast decks, I've been having problems with this. Oh shoot, it's not in my thank you. I'm so sorry. I will put I can put the Patreon link in the channel description right now as soon as I figure out where the buttons are. Buttons are hard. I totally forgot to add that. Thank you so much for pointing that out. Friend. Let me find links for stuff. But I do not understand why Patreon makes it so hard to find the stupid link. Like it's not like impossible, right? But hey, you make money off of me making money. Why are you making this difficult? Like I don't understand. I feel like it should be your 100%. So many of these things, it's like isn't like your 100% goal to like allow me to pay so many different services. Like I feel like this should be easier because this is how I'm paying you. Don't you want me to pay you? Isn't that how you make money? Where is the edit dashboard? Where do I edit my channel again? Oh, customize channel. I'm so stupid. You know, maybe it isn't that hard to find things, and I might just be stupid. I'm so sorry, people who are chatting, that I am not responding to right now. I am adding the Patreon link to the YouTube channel. A thing that I'm so good at making money, guys. I'm so good. I haven't even actually like cashed out any of the AdSense in the video. Like I have some, but I've not used literally any of it. at any point. For anything. Just sitting there. They want my tax info, and I'm like, yeah, I'll do that eventually. Try selling bath water and you drink it. I'm not spoiling it, but the next video I might be trying to sell you something. But I promise it's something that I think is really cool and have. But shush shush shush. This will be the next. It won't be bath water, I promise. It might be trinkets, but it's like magic trinkets because you're all magic players. Yeah, the big thing is you missed this earlier, this conversation, Moth, but this deck is still fair. It's still like a fair deck. I'm doing fair things that I'm trying to set up. And so it's not bracket. I was talking about like bracket 4 is like when we get to bracket 4, I'm no longer playing fair magic. We are doing shithead things. I'm being a shithead. We're doing the stupidest shit I can possibly imagine. Like I can still take quirky, stupid strategies to do that, but I'm going to take those strategies and snap them in half. This deck is not doing that. This deck is just like very fairly like I'm hitting fucking Birds of Paradise into my 4-mana commander, into my like 3 mana setup pieces, and then I'm just slamming a big honkin' dude that'll hit you. Like, like it's still a very fair, straightforward game plan. If not triggers to clutter. Hey, this is to clutter your backpack when you go to the LGS. The main thing, the best way to engage with Magic the Gathering is consuming more. You must consume. Consume product, friend. Consume product. Have you ever considered that you must consume product forever and ever? Shh. I did not say play Mets. I said tings to go with your Magic stuff. I didn't say play Mets. I was just saying, you can design a fair air quotes deck to beat a combo deck, but it will not look very fair. A good example of this is if anyone plays Modern, Boros in Modern right now is a fair deck. Massive air quotes, fair deck. It is the fair deck of Modern right now. That deck is still, if you ever watch it like play, especially uninterrupted, it's fucking insane. The deck, like if you just leave it alone, it gets like Guide of Souls and Ocelot's Prides and Ajani and Goblin Bombardment. Like it will deal 20 damage on turn 3. Like just aggroing you the fuck out. But it is fair. It is, I'm fucking here to play creatures that synergize with other creatures to kill you. So like, yeah, like with other cards, like it's a fair deck, but it just, we've gotten to the point that like fair Magic can get so optimized, so powerful, so quickly, that you can like beat, and that's not new. Fair decks have always been able to beat combo. But Commander in specific, like unfair gets so accelerated. But you can do fair things in bracket 4. It's just that if you're coming to bracket 4, you need to like, if you're coming to bracket 4, you need to understand that that's what's happening. We're playing unfair shit. Now you could still, I'm Slicer. We're all gonna come. I'm playing Mass Land Destruction. I'm playing Stacks. I'm gonna make you play a fair game plan. I jokingly like to say, kind of riffing on Maldhound's bit about CDH, that like bracket 4 and 5. So like bracket 1 through 3, you're learning to play basketball, right? We're playing basketball, playing a game of basketball. Bracket 1's like, you kids on the playground. Bracket 2 is all like, okay, like a pickup game. Bracket 3 is like, we're starting to get professional about this. Maybe you're in like a D League, maybe an NBA player, but like top of bracket 3 is like NBA players. And NBA players, they'll crush anyone who's even like a D League like player with the quote, "I'm closer to LeBron James than you are to me." But when you get to bracket 4 and 5, you are now playing basketball against anime characters. They have insane. Bracket 5 is fucking Jujutsu Kaisen characters. They have insane magic abilities that you can't even fucking. Like, we're not playing basketball anymore. But if you can make those decks play basketball, you can take away all of their insane shit and make them play basketball with you. They're not actually very good at basketball. They just have a bunch of insane shit. So you can play that. You can bring that strategy into bracket 4 and bracket 5 of like, no, guys, I'm going to pack all the tools and we're going to play some fucking basketball. And I'm going to win because I know how to play basketball and you don't. That's like the entire idea behind Semi-Blue. That's like most of the idea around Stacks. That's like what Slicer's trying to do. So like that's all to say that like fair decks can beat combo decks, but you need to make the combo deck play fairly. I'm glad you find it apt. The last section about if you can make them play basketball, they're actually quite bad at that. That is me. I'm claiming that one. The rest is Muldhound. I'm just aping that analogy wholesale. I'm not gonna claim anything. Insert image of Jesus dunking on you. Insert scene from the Jujutsu Kaisen movie of Gojo making a basketball shot from literally across the court. You feel like your advice remains the same for commanders that aren't engines and are instead payoffs. I think the threshold advice video is the same. Do you think that WinCon do you think your WinCon advice video is too? Yeah, so like to be fair, WinCons is kind of the framing device I use. I can have we seen everything we want to see on this deck, guys? Do we understand? Because I can show off decks that use like payoffs in the command zone instead of literally the only deck on my channel is a payoff in the command zone. The payoff is if you put your payoff in the command zone, that gets to be your linchpin card. So you can make linchpin cards can either generate advantage and like forward your game plan that way, or they can be your payoffs. Those are the two like best ways to have linchpin cards. So a lot of the times, if your commander is a payoff, then you want it to be that linchpin. It wants to be a linchpin. I can pull it like Sir Conrad's another really good example of like a payoff in the command zone. So your entire deck is structured around the idea. I think that we've seen this deck for two. To be fair, you've seen me yap while staring at the deck for 2 hours. You've seen the deck for. I'll be generous, like 30 minutes. Aristocrats and I can show Aristocrats in non-black. It's the only video that actually only deck that has a deck tech on the channel, but no one watched it. And the people who did watch it basically clicked off immediately. So I seem to need to learn things about how to make deck tech videos that are interesting because I think I just overwhelmed people with the amount of stuff on the screen, which is my bad. Where is it? There it is. Yeah, so this deck is based around. I saw a YouTube short video in a. Thank you for watching that one. I appreciate it. If people do not watch video, that is my fault. Right? At the end of the day, I don't want anyone to ever feel guilty about not watching any of the videos. I appreciate if you do, but like it's my job to make videos worth watching with thumbnails that are enticing. Like that's my job. Do not feel bad if you do not watch a video. Sir Fondum. After a month of fiddling with it, I love your work with that. The Zergo deck's fucking. That deck is. Yeah, this is the Schlein deck. So I can show payoffs in the command zone. So this whole deck is based around. I saw Schlein get spoiled, and I was trying to brew Schlein in CDH. It's like a stacks deck. It was just not going well. This card doesn't draw cards is a big problem. You can get like Keen Sense out, but then you run into like the VV problem of like, boy howdy, if I get this Keen Sense, my deck's gas. And boy howdy, if someone has a removal spell in response to Keen Sense, I do shit nothing. So I was running into that, and I was sitting we're coming back from Magic Vegas, and we were going through airport security, and a YouTube short came up on my feed, and it's one of those shorts that I think it's MTG Recon, but I'm not fully certain it was them. That's just like teaching players what the words of Magic mean, right? It's one of those various ones of like, this is what the archetypes are. And it was about aristocrats. And it starts the video with aristocrats is a black-based archetype. And I immediately paused the video and turned to my partner and I was like, I know how I'm going to build Schlein. So that is all preamble to assert that this is a non-black aristocrats deck. That's the whole vibe we're going for here. And this is how we kind of build a payoff in the command zone. So everything in this deck is built to function, doesn't actually do anything. Like I can turn it sideways, but like this card is not good at killing people. There's no evasion. It'll get really big, but like blockers exist. This card is not good at killing people. This card is not good at killing people. This card is not good at killing people. This card is very good at killing people. But like, so we have a lot of cards that are just like not good at actually killing people. But we have a lot of cards that are really, really good at setting up little internal engines that'll go off as soon as I need them to. And that's how I like to build payoffs in the command zone, is everyone knows what the payoff's going to be. Everyone's watching for the payoff. They're waiting for it. They're waiting with bated breath, knowing that this is going to be the thing the deck pivots around. You need to, one, either make the deck look dog shit so that no one cares about it, which is what this deck does, or you need alternate payoffs, or you just need it that as soon as your payoff hits the battlefield, I am gaining inexorable advantage. It doesn't necessarily mean I have to win the game as soon as they hit the battlefield, but like I need so much advantage when it hits that if you remove it immediately, that's fine. I don't fucking care. Like I have forwarded my position so much. You would also take the strategy of like Zergo, which is another payoff of the command zone, that you just get it down so early that removing it is inconvenient. Zergo does not read very strong, and another thing about Zergo, and Sir Conrad to a degree, but Zergo much more so, is Zergo's effect reads, not actually, but it reads very replaceable. Incredibly replaceable. Which makes it feel like, this is the same thing with like Ellis decks, where it makes it feel like removing that creature is not worth it. Like, if you kill my Zergo, I will just play Zulaport Cutthroat. And now I have a Zergo and a Zulaport Cutthroat available to me. You should just wait to kill my Zulaport Cutthroat. So that's another thing. You can build in redundancy to it, or just the illusion of redundancy, right? This deck is bracket 3, right? It seems to overload. No, this deck is bracket 2 because this deck sucks. So, one thing about this deck is, boy howdy does it suck. I'm trying to do something patently stupid, and I have decided in my infinite wisdom that running cards that actually make counters in any reasonable way is a bridge too far. This is like the most just like bare bones Shalai and Halar card that I am running, like these two. Like, I'm not running. Mycloth is great in this deck. I'm not running Mycloth on the basis that it might be able to burn people out too easily. Or like there might be games where I just like Arwen into Mycoloth into I make a million saplings and you die. I don't want that to happen. I want you to have to the deck has to resolve around this stupid aristocrats plan. So that makes it so this deck is very bad. This deck incredibly rarely wins before turn 9 and takes so much effort to set up so much shit that's going on. So this is a bracket 2 deck just on the basis that it needs so much to actually go right. Right, like I have really neat little loot like this, plus like you get this creature, plus you then get like an Arwen, and then like that's like a fun little loop. Or you can get like this plus this, and you can, if you can get like Boss's Chauffeur with like a Bloodspore Threnix out, and you have a Luminous Broodmoth so that you can kill the Chauffeur and the Luminous comes back. Oh, I gotta pin the new deck. Sorry, I'm talking all about the deck. I'm not sending it to you. Like, you have to get all of that stuff going together, right? That is a lot of things. These are a lot of expensive cards. These are cards, and most importantly, in a vacuum, these cards will suck. These cards, they're all terrible, which gives you a lot of leeway. People do not tend to kill Anax since it rotated out of standard. So it gives me leeway there, but this deck is too slow to compete at bracket 3. It's just it's trying to coordinate too many effects that are too bad at finding each other. That doesn't make it fun, not fun. I love this deck. This deck's hilarious. But yeah, I will say for newer players, the deck can be a bit of an information overload. I usually try to only play it with new players who know what aristocrats are baseline, at least, so they can like kind of recognize what's happening. But part of it is the showiness for a new player of being all like, especially if they know what aristocrats is normally, showing them me breaking what aristocrats is. Yeah, this deck is only at 36 lands. According to Salubrious Snail Calculator, that should be fine. Because the mana value is pretty low. But I have been skeptical. The land count in this deck, I think I say in the video about the deck, is the land count should be pushed a little higher. One of the big things is that the deck like sends literally these 2 cards, I believe. 3. I have 3 cards. 4 cards. 4 cards above 5 mana. So like not much above 5 mana. Most of those cards are game ending. We have like both the altars as like really good mana engines. But this deck should probably be like 38. I'd say 38 is probably a good land count for the deck. But the deck's trying to do so much that it is hard to get that 38 land count in and keep the deck functional. just because we're trying to do so much. But yeah, if I'm gonna be fully honest, this deck should probably get Enduring Vitality in here somewhere. Probably one more small ramp spell of some persuasion, just like a Nature's Lore or something, or like another synergistic mana dork probably, and then like 2 more lands. I really do think this deck probably needs like 4 more ways to make mana in it than it has. And this is what I mean when I said at the top that we're gonna learn that I don't super practice what I preach. Like I do, but when decks stop working is really where I start nailing into that stuff, because I will say this deck does struggle with its land drops a non-insignificant amount of the time. Elf Aim Sanctuary and Curse of Opulence. I love Curse of Opulence. I love it. I truly love it. 33 lands is dramatically irresponsible. The people I play with do not trust me in any reasonable sense. If I play Curse of Opulescence, they will kill me. they will exclusively attack me for the rest of the game. Do you look at a deck and consider it finished? Do you have any decks that you're constantly replacing cards? I look at every deck. I review every deck every time a new set comes out. This was a big push right before I made the channel, was to get all of the decks actually in line, because it took like I was doing them in sets of 10, and it was like a 6-month delay between them. So by the time I was done with all 32 decks, some of the decks were like 2 years outdated. So it was a big push to pull them all up. But at this point, we about 2 weeks after every set, I'll probably after this next video, maybe this weekend, start looking at the Lorwyn cards for the updates for the deck. So the decks are constantly morphing. As far as when is a deck considered finished, never. When I get bored. So like the Azami deck is finished because I have a 1 Shitong deck waiting in the wings to replace it. So the deck's finished in that sense. But it's a constant route of improvement. Every single set, we add new things. We shift the decks a little bit. We change them. Back when I only ran about 6 decks, things were just less established. I don't know. It's hard. I would, because there are like, it's just a vibes call, man. Sometimes it's I get the deck right on the first try, and I'm like, this is awesome, and it feels so good. Sometimes it's just constant tweaking forever. Of just like as I heat seek on the new combos and new card interactions that I constantly tweak and replace in and out of decks. Sometimes it's like, okay, the deck did the thing. This is like every time I build Experiment Garage, like the deck does the thing like 4 times. And I'm like, haha, I have done the whatever dumbass combo I'm doing with Experiment Garage this time. And like then the deck's over. For those of us who here, I can. We should probably have a Scryfall tab up so I can bring things up. Where is Experiment? Garage. Nope. This card is very stupid. But every time I build this commander, it's usually like, did I do the thing 3 games in a row? Cool. Deck's done. and it gets ripped apart again. So it really depends on like, I know I say this in like almost all of my videos. It really depends on like, what's your purpose for your deck? Why does this deck exist? Why am I building this deck? What makes me happy about this deck? And when you fulfill that purpose, deck is done. At least if you regularly fulfill that purpose, like to a point that you find it satisfactory. But I not like once and done, but like if once the deck gets to the point that it's like satisfactory, fulfilling whatever you wanted out of it, deck is done. That's constantly changing. That's not, maybe I play the deck and I find something else interesting, or maybe I just want to make that more consistent. Maybe I want it less consistent. I want more diversity in my game. This is what the next video is going to be about, is that like when I say consistency, I mean like consistency that like on turn 3, I'm going to have 4 mana. A lot of times, if my deck is overly consistent in a single like actual play pattern, I will shift things in the deck. I just want to make sure that I have the same resources every game. That's all. Whenever I talk about consistency in videos, I'm talking about like a consistent access to resources, which is, I don't think, I personally am not using the term wrong, but it is the misinterpretation a lot of people have towards that is a very obvious one and a totally normal way to interpret what I'm saying. So it's important to have a video clarifying what I am saying. When I say consistency, I do mean like that I want to have a consistent access to a consistent amount of agency that I can pivot around. So that is all to say that sometimes I do make decks that are like I split apart their game plans a bit as they become more consistent at the bottom. I'll make the top end kind of more diverge more. But yeah, it's a constant cycle. This deck is not done, by the way. Not even close. This deck is Heaping Pile, but it's fun. It's funny, and I giggle to my heart's content anytime someone loses to Haruspex. Another awesome card, by the way. Haruspex is another one of my Phyrexian. Look, it's Phyrexian Altar. If you squint really hard and you don't think about it very hard, or if you think about it way too hard. Same deck 14 times in the last 20 games. You know? Sometimes you do that. I don't do that anymore. Just I have so many decks that I'm just cycling through. This kind of creates a problem where like I ask my playgroup what is iconic out of like my playstyle or my deck building, and I just have so many decks that it's like they're like no singular deck becomes iconic for me because I just have so many. This is something I was talking about. Ham is good. This is something I was talking about in my Discord earlier today. I have not done a lot of building around like non-gameplay theme. I think it is like a weakness in my level of experience in Commander, because I'm a big advocate of like Magic is a wonderful game, and the main thing I hate is people who like, I don't hate this, but the main thing I feel disappointed by is people who silo that certain, like hating certain parts of Magic that they just never want to entertain or engage with it. So that being said, I really value making sure that I've got the breadth of experience that the whole game has to offer. So I feel it is a weakness in my level of experience that I haven't really built around like a lore, theme, character idea in the past. I've done a couple decks that like want to highlight Kiora, but they're not like Kiora decks, you know? And I think it's something that I should try and do sometime, because I've had friends who have a lot of fun with it, and it is a way that not like tons of people engage with Commander, but like a decent chunk. And especially if I'm going to make content about it, I defend those people on a regular basis to like more optimal players that I play with. But I should like actually understand the experience that they have, and like so that I understand the draw and the appeal and what that's like. Like I hate building budget, but I've like built 20-something budget decks at variety of budgets from like $10 up to $100, just so I understand what that feeling, what that appeal, what that plays like, and to understand that like also to like solidify why I don't like it. If I don't like it for reasons that I have experienced that I can cement in things that I have done. And that means that if someone does want to pitch me on building budget decks in the future, I have tangible experiences that they can talk to and speak to maybe convince me in the future. If I don't have those experiences, those touchstones, then it's like, why? Like when I try to convince someone to play CDH who's never played CDH, as Deldia's or Lilith, I don't know which one you wanted me to call you, but is pointing out, like when I try to tell people to play CDH, I'm interacting with someone who clearly has never like even evaluated the format and is just going off of like the memes of the internet. I don't have like a solid basis. I don't have anything for them to grab onto or anything for me to grab onto to try and convince them. And I don't want to be that person. I always want to be that a person that like has a level of understanding that other people could convince me on if they do just satisfy whatever my dissatisfaction is with something. Lilith, you got it. But yeah, the that is all to say that no, I have not. My long ramble. No, I have never built around a specific commander in lore that I like, or character in lore that I like. But I think at some point I should build like a Veraska or Kiora deck, because those are like two of my favorite characters. I could really, or a Selvala. I love Selvala. The main one, if they ever give me lore for her, I want to make an Obeka lore deck. The character is so like ludonarratively, which means like the applied narrative of her mechanics is incredibly interesting. What an interesting implication. A character who like can crack time. How cool. Thank God we've seen her twice, and I have had between the two appearances 2 paragraphs to go off of. I don't even know where this character is from. But if I ever get lore for Obeka, I will build an Obeka theme deck. But I can still like maybe do like like I said, Vraska, Kiora, Selvala. These are all some of my favorite characters, and that would be cool. Is there any deck you feel you don't get to talk about enough? Let us see. Oh, we've got notifications. Are you guys coming and saying hi? Thank you all for coming over to saying hi to the Moxfield profile. This deck I just talked about, so I guess get to talk. I don't know if I've talked about Obeka. I want to talk about Obeka. Obeka's fun. We're gonna talk about Obeka. So we'll explore the return in the command zone. Heck yeah. Yeah, probably Explorer returned in the command zone. They put my girl in a cowboy hat. I'm not accepting it. I hate this. With no reasoning, no explanation. Thunder Junction. I would listen. Spider-Man, I just like rolled my eyes. Thunder Junction made me want to put my fist through a wall. As someone who cares about the characters in Magic, I was not a happy camper about that set. I have ranted against that set for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. I hate Thunder Junction with a passion. I hate Thunder Junction better than all UB stuff. I know other people like it. And I'm currently trying to use the web effects concept to build around the 2-color one from Foundations. Yeah. I think you could map it onto like representations of different ideas if you want to, like, as your like secondary plans can be the different ideas you want to represent within Alicia. And then you can use like cards that either represent multiple themes or just like mechanically duct tape them together so that the deck actually functions. I don't know if you're trying to build this for bracket 1 or bracket 2 or bracket 3 or whatever. So you can use linchpin cards to kind of either thematically duct tape them together if we're trying to make just like a bracket 1. This is my girl Alicia. She's so cool. If we're trying to do like bracket 2, you could still like your secondary plans can be like thematic highlights. And then your linchpin cards can actually be the mechanical connections between those thematic highlights. That would be how I would transfer that concept onto a thematic thing. But like I said, I've not done it a whole ton. So this is that's my best approximation to what to do. To like instill a thematic. And you got to use cons plans, right? You got to use cons plans, obviously. But yeah, that would be my general reference on how you would do that. And I'd love to give you something more direct, but it's just not something, or like a framework. I want to develop a framework for like how to make theme come through, but I just haven't. Okay, so Obeka, time pun intended. It's time to stop. So this deck is based off of one of my friends, who was one of the people. It was the person who got me back into Magic because he wanted to learn how to play Magic. This deck is Grixis Stompy. That's the idea of the deck. We are just trying to... So I am just trying to make... We were just looking at Magus, which we all called like a turbo ramp deck in the more traditional sense. This is... All the decks are $2,000. I said this. Listen, look at these printings. You do not need these printings of these cards. This card is $5. You do not need the $30 printing of the $5. This card is 50 cents. I just like putting my very pretty printings of my very pretty Magic cards on my decks. Okay, these decks are not actually. And then like, listen, just proxy it, or you can cut. I did this math a while ago. My decks generally fall between about $2 outside the mana bases at all between $100 and $400, $300, I think, if I remember correctly. If you just kill the mana bases entirely, some of them down to like 50. If with the mana bases, if you just kill the dual lands and the printings, the decks generally fall into like $200 to $600 range, which is like obviously not cheap, but like. In my extensive experience teaching people to play this game and playing this game with tons of people, that is not an outrageous price for a commander deck. This is not me telling you to go to the fucking store and spend $600 on Magic cards, and that's the reasonable thing to do. More just saying that, like, my decks appear a lot more expensive because I like to bling the shit out of them and I play my dual lands. Like, that's where that price line is generally coming from. You do not need these decks to be $2,000 to function at the level that I have them functioning. You can accomplish that for like a pretty normal deck price, or you could print the cards. You can just print the card. I don't have a real Badlands in this deck. The real Badlands is in my CDH deck. I don't have it in here. I printed a Badlands. Please just print the Badlands. It's okay. Please do it. I want you to cast your spells. I don't care if you spend $400. I just want you to be able to cast your spells, friend. Yeah, for the prices, the decks appear more expensive than they actually are because I like my things to be pretty. On top of the fact that this is actually like collection tracked, as you guys can all see, this is mapping onto the printings I have. So like that's another thing. True, dude. I was so close this weekend to buying an Alpha Red Elemental Blast. I've almost bought Alpha Red Elemental Blast like 4 times. Just because like I want to own a card from Alpha, and Red Elemental Blast is like a really funny card. I've never paid for proxies. I've always just printed them at my school printer. But I have friends who pay for the service. My biggest complaint for paid proxies is, I'm sorry, those foils look terrible. The overshine just blinds me. They look terrible in my opinion. But they do look better than pieces of paper. So like, what? I can't be too high on my high horse. But anyway, so the base idea of this deck, outside of the horribly high prices, which I'll apologize for. I've had people complain in the chat, in the comment sections about the prices of these decks. Just proxy them, or don't, and even without that, you can like drop down. But the idea here is we're a stompy deck. We're here to ramp, and we're here to be stompy. So I am running 1, 2, 3. I promise. This is a ramp spell. 4. I promise. I'll get into it in a minute. 5, 6. I'm not gonna count anything up here as a ramp spell. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 ramp spells. Yeah, so we're running 20 ramp spells. This is a ramp spell, by the way, because you can copy fetch lands and you can get additional. It makes art. Oh yeah, let me switch. Let me switch over. Yes, for recognizing the magic cards, there's a reason I do not use I stopped using pretty printings in the videos. So that it would be easier to just I got that advice from another YouTuber to stop doing that, so that it would be easier to just like pinpoint immediately know what I was talking about. So I try to use much more familiar stuff. But yeah, one thing is that I track here. We've had a lot of people join in a while. We can do this really quick. I track my whole collection here in Moxfield. My collection is not small, and I track where all the cards are here in Moxfield. I track everything in my Moxfield. So the reason that my decks are not just base printings, and likely won't be unless I just make a separate account and transfer everything over, is because I am actually using this to track my actual collection and where my cards are. But yeah, I've been playing for 10 years. And I'm going to assert that I have not spent that much money. I've definitely just been the beneficiary of appreciation, which is partly true. And partly me being ignorant on purpose. So that I don't have to rectify the amount of money I've spent on cardboard. With my, sense of self. I'll keep telling myself that eventually I'll sell it, even though I don't think I will. Like all Magic players, right? This is just, no, you don't understand. It's fine that I spent $60 on cardboard. I can resell it. I can recoup the cost. It's fine. Am I going to sell it? No. I'm never going to buy high, never sell. But yeah, so this is, anyways, to get back to, I've sent the list. This is a ramp deck. We have 20, as I said, 20 ramp spells in here. And not insignificant, like big ramp. We've got big ramp spells. And notice this average mana value is, and you can just see here, this mana value is very high. Importing deck. Oh, it's more than 33. It's so much. I have so 33 is the public facing number. I and like number I keep built, but number of deck lists I have is much higher. Because I just like will do deck building challenges for myself occasionally, or I'll I sold it for $10 2 years ago or 10 years ago. Yep, that sounds about right. Now, you don't understand. You can't acknowledge those things. Buy high, never sell. And I purchased all of my cards for cheap, and then they stayed high forever. I never spent $60 on a playset of cards that are now worth $2 a piece. That didn't happen. You can't make me acknowledge that it happened. I refuse to acknowledge that it happened. But yeah, so this is like straight up Stompy though. So we are taking advantage of like extra tokens that we can keep with Obeka, which is always a fun, cool trick. But like, I'm just like, hey man, I'm casting an Ancient Silver Dragon. I'm gonna give it haste, and I'm gonna draw a shit ton of cards. Or, you know, Ilharg is just gonna slam this Balefire Dragon into play, and like just shit like that. Like, I'm just gonna make big honking idiots, and they're gonna have big honking effects, and I'm going to kill you. Even the spells, right? We're going big spells, and obviously we gotta have the, you know, in case they kill Obeka, you know, I can't lose to my glorious end. I must run time stops so that I don't lose when people kill. This comes up more often than you might think. That like I'll cast like an one of the Obeka time walks, and then my Obeka will get killed, and I'll just dead as just cast like a discontinuity or like a full time stop just on my end step. So that I don't lose the game. It comes up a non-insignificant portion of the time, which probably means I'm getting overly aggressive with the extra turn spells. But I don't generally advocate for playing intentionally wrong to balance a deck. But in this case, just for the sake of like the amount of time I'm taking, I do tend to try and fire my extra turns off like early in the game, just so they can give me like a nice head start, and so that the extra turns don't take super, super long. Because trying to mitigate, like, especially the situations where like I chain last chance into Warrior's Oath, that taking super, super long. But yeah. Is a player removal, you're going to remove it. Yeah, it actually becomes a really good way to just bait removal with Obeka. Where like you bait removal with Obeka, and then you just like, you know that you've got the Sundial of the Infinite in your hand. So you just slam something else that they should have killed. Like you just get like a Master Multiplied out, and then you just keep it. Like you can, it's really funny. You can use the last chance or whatever to like bait the removal out on the other stuff, so that you can like get cards that you actually want to keep. Which I talk about, I think, in the tempo video or the politics video. Like just intentionally running shit out into situations that it looks really obvious that you're about to get blown out, only for that to be like fully your intention. Yeah, the Master Multiplied. He's been pretty sick in this deck. He goes, yeah, triggered abilities that right. It makes it so that I don't have to be so proactive with Obeka. He also solves a little bit of the issue that these 3 Myriad. One thing is that the Myriad cards want you to end your turn during your combat, but the temporary copies want you to end your turn in your end step. So there's like a little bit of a tension there. So Master Multiplied really helps solve that tension, which is really good. We kind of want to have those to solve that nombo, right? Like they both are baseline fine in the deck, but this is I'll describe this as a nombo generally, but like when I say something there is a nombo between cards, it doesn't necessarily always mean it's bad, but it does mean that it creates like a central tension in your deck, and you need a way to resolve that tension. You need to either have like a good understanding of which side of the tension you're always going to go on, or you need cards that collapse that tension into like an actual definitive line of play. Either of those options, right? Because if you just ignore the tension, then it's going to screw you. Yeah, negative synergy. Yeah, it's not negative synergy. Like these cards are very good together if I can get them working together. Right, like a Calamity plus Atlan Soldier is very strong if I can get them working together. But I do need to resolve that. I need to figure that out. I need to figure out how I'm going to resolve that in the meanwhile when I do just get these cards. Like you just need to have. That's why I describe it as a tension. They're pulling against each other. They do want you to take 2 different game actions, and you need to resolve that tension, or else it's going to just pull your deck apart. And one of the cards is just always going to feel terrible. But yeah, what are other? We're also kind of the current build. This deck goes through lots of different builds. Grixis Stomping can be built a lot of different ways. I'm a little upset with how high the legendary count currently is. So there might be a rebuild of this that drops the legendary count pretty substantially, but really built around like a reanimator idea right now, with like Sedri and Prince of Thralls, and then we've got like Foggy Swamp Vision. That's why the Psychic Frog is in here. We have yeah, so and the Relic of Sauron, the Ripples of Undeath. Like we're really built around a more reanimating build right now. I'm tempted to kill some of the legendaries and build up on a more copy based build. But yeah, I can goldfish the deck. This deck gold. Well, one other thing is this deck is kind of goldfish is a little weird, but we can absolutely goldfish the deck. We don't have a fetch land for Go-Go, but I can definitely try this hand. I also oh shoot, I should not have clicked that. This hand is also fine. I will say that I don't mulligan as much as I probably should. Oh, that is an awesome start. So you start with a Raucous Theater. I'm gonna keep that on top because it's very good. Untap turn 2. I'm gonna play this Morphic Pool into Fellware Stone. I will say, notably, this deck is going to be very, very much slower than the Max Lysiacan deck is. Ooh, 2 extra turn spells. So like this comes down to like if I'm trying to play kind of like a optimal game, I'm gonna play the Solemn Simulacrum here. So we're gonna play as if I'm playing optimally, but there's a non-zero amount of chance that I would run out Becca to enable these early, just so that I can keep the game kind of going a little better. Have you collected any other card in mass than River Hoopoe? I have a friend who I helped build up a collection of about 300 Prismatic Pipers. Yeah, a lot of this stuff specifies non-legendary, so even Mirror Box doesn't quite work. But yeah, so we're gonna play this as if I'm gonna be trying to play as optimally as possible. So I should not get a mountain here. I should get an island here. Oh, there's another thing if you can look to see, but I think my basic count is a little higher in this deck. I think it's like 6 or 7. 6 or 7. Because I actually am tutoring for like a non-insignificant amount of Scryfall. I've done Scryfall syntax in DMs so much. But I am I'm running in like Solemn Simulacrum is a good example of like I want to be able to copy Solemn Simulacrum and consistently get my basics. Yeah, so 6. So like this is an example of that slider of the number of basics I'm going to run. Where like this deck has one card that cares about basics, so I've gone up to 6 basics. So if I have multiple cards, I'm probably going to go up like 9 or 10. It's not like a default number. All of my 3-color decks run multicolor. To be fair, these are not I just use these baseline. But all of my multicolor decks run Secret Lair lands. They are, yeah. I my decks are blingy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, so we're gonna do 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm just going to play a Regalia. I will crew the Regalia and attack with it. We're gonna get that onto the battlefield. So we are on turn 5. This is notable. One thing to note here. Yeah, for Tainted Pact, I should double them. Absolutely. We'll pass on that. So notably, like a lot of people talk about green's ability to ramp being so superior to other colors. Don't like we're on turn 5. I'm in Grixis. 1, 2, 3. I can play my land for turn, so I have 8 mana accessible to me on turn 5, which is like not what Magus, less than Magus had, but like you don't need green. You don't need green mana. Like we're saying Solemn Simulacrum feels slow, and Solemn Simulacrum has been left behind by a lot of the format. I do personally just love him, but like I'm on turn 5. I've got 6. I got 8 mana. Like dead ass. That's just the position we're in. I will probably play Obeka here to try and set up for some extra turn stuff once I can play the Sphinx. So I'll crew with Obeka. Then we'll attack with this. Look at that. To the bottom we go. So again, we're just gonna assume some good. This is not something I would normally probably do. In Regalia is kind of what is pushing Solemn Simulacrum out of a lot of my decks, like finally, after many years. But I do love him, so he still sticks around sometimes. Dies 2 Magus is not an argument. Yeah, Magus Luciacade is kind of much stronger than this deck, but it's fine. At this point, we would fire Last Chance. I'm gonna take another turn after this one. And at this point, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, I forgot to play my land last turn. Shoot. I played this land last turn. Shh. Anyways, this is 8 mana. We're going to cast a Sphinx of the Second Sun. Oh, I played this tap land. I just surveilled the Ripples of Undeath to the top. Shush. We play perfect Magic over here. I'm a star Magic the Gathering player. Anyways, this is untapped right now, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm gonna crack that to go get a Badlands. Notably, we're currently still on turn 5. I'm gonna crew this. Attack with that. We're gonna reveal until we hit a land again. There's my land. And then we're going to a 1, 2. I'm gonna cast a Warrior's Oath. We're gonna go. So next we're gonna go before. So we have another main phase in between these phases. So I'll untap everything because of Sphinx of the Second Sun, and draw another card. And then I'll end the turn in that end step, and then we'll go to my next turn to me. So we're still in turn 5. I'm going to play a Nightscape Familiar. I'm going to cast a Ripples of Undeath. I'm going to play 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to cast a Nezahal. Again, we're in turn 5. I will tap this to attack with Regalia and Sphinx. I'll get that land to the battlefield tapped. And to the bottom. Then we will... This is pre-combat main phase, so it won't trigger, sadly. So we're just going to untap. Upkeep. Wishing this was an upkeep trigger. Draw. And we'll tap to end turn. And this is kind of our turn 5 setup. It's hard to play from this point because we have a Nezahal out. I don't know how many cards I'm going to draw. This isn't by winning the game by any extent, but like pretty good turn 5. Better turn 5 but notably, like as said, like Magus had a much bigger existence at this point. Magus had a lot more contingency at this point. I'm down to like 1 card in hand. Now this Nezahal is going to draw me a lot more cards, but like this is a much more fragile position than Magus was in. But still, I mean, this, like I said, this is a pretty good pass on turn 5. I'm doing pretty solid. Yeah, chaining 2 extra turns together is a very good case scenario, but you got to keep in mind that like, what if I got a copy spell there? Like if I got a Kiki Jiki and a Sphinx of the Second Sun, I currently have, and 1 extra turn spell, I currently have 5 Sphinx of the Second Suns out, or Jax's, or an Orthalion. Like this was, I will say, this is also like a pretty this is a really good showing for like the ramp side of the deck, so I'm glad it came up. But kind of a bad showing for the card draw side of the deck, which has been struggling. So like this deck is not perfect. Card draw's really been struggling, which you can kind of see here. But for the ramp side of the deck, this is like a decent to slightly, and then the extra. No, this is a decent ramp out. But for the 2 extra turn spells, yeah, that's really good. But those extra turn spells being copy spells also would have been like very similar in approximation. Which is to say, that's still like, right, that's if I switch back over between copy and, so we have what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So there are 10 options there that could have been good. Yeah. Like I was saying, that would have been a very aggressive curve out of me. Much more likely I would have thrown those extra turn spells much earlier in the game just to ramp out and get the Sphinx of the Second Sun going more quickly, because earlier in the game it's just less likely that people will have removal up. But yeah, you are fully correct that like that is much more. This is and this deck I would say is much more comfortably black at 3, right? Where like it definitely has weaknesses that you could have attacked there. It's not like domineering at turn 6. It's just doing fairly well. There is some like variation on the different kinds of effects of how good they would have been in those situations. So like this is a good example on like how many caveats were on this versus how many. This is one of those things I was saying at the top that at like the beginning of the stream that I just kind of have a good way, and I'll try and think about how to make a video on this. A good way to naturally intuit how self playtest like that translates into actual playtest. But yeah, one thing is that this deck has a lot more asterisks on that turn 6 than the Magus deck had, which is why I'm a lot more comfortable playing it. It's much easier for this deck to find good bracket 3 opponents because there is that reasonable counterplay. There are so many different ways that things could go, and there are so many different points at which I could have been interacted with, and again, at that turn 6, like it's not like the Magus deck where turn 6 it was like I have 1,000 power on board and 20 cards in hand and 50 mana. Fear my power. This is like turn 6. I have like a pretty reasonable, like a decent, like I have like 12 mana. I have like a pretty strong draw engine, but I only have 1 card in hand, and I'm like very vulnerable to a board wipe. And a removal spell at any point in this chain would have fucked me. So like there's 2 very different levels of power, which is why I struggle with Magus Lucia Kane. But the thing that Magus Lucia Kane wants to do, if I'm gonna hit my breakpoints well and I want to execute my task correctly, is always gonna look like that. So I have to find either a weakness for Magus, or I have to figure something out about that deck to help temper it. Because all the things that I find cool and want to do with the commander just makes the problem that it currently has worse and worse and worse and worse. Kind of my natural instinct of what I want to do with the deck is what's causing the problem, and trying to make the deck bigger and more consistent. We don't say dies to removal, we say reactable. Yeah, honestly, I think it's a joke, but it is kind of there is like notable difference there, right? Dies to removal is like, yo, if you have a fucking removal spell right now. But like reactable is like you just need to generally be able to touch it before it does its thing. Any of your decks have removal engines in them. Also, any tips on how to make and use them? Yes. My non-interactable. Reactable, non-interactable. Yeah, we can this deck it doesn't anymore. At one point, this deck was trying to copy one of its copy targets was Noxious Gear Hulk in one build. I mean, we still have Hullbreaker Horror, right? Copies of Hullbreaker Horror are in fact awful. By awful, I mean like, for everybody else. Great for me. I have multiple copies of Hullbreaker Horror. You can all eat dirt. But my Greasefang deck has this is kind of a problem for Greasefang. So Greasefang's like base strategy. Here we can switch over to Greasefang. We're just gonna switch between decks as people ask questions. I think this is a better strategy than trying to rummage through everything. Where is Greasefang? Wah, wah. Whop. Yeah, reactable is yeah. I think reactable also like gives you right dice to removal is like so applicable to everything, but like reactable is like there's a reasonable conversation we can act at like what is reactable, I don't know if you were here when I was talking a little earlier about like I like to have positions that I think it is generally good that when you have positions about or like opinions about a hobby or something that you life generally is to have positions that are grounded in something that if someone disagrees with you, they can move, right? There are things that you could reasonably be moved on, and dice to removal is kind of a blank argument, right? That argument applies to so much, and there's no way I can move a person off of the dice to removal position. But reactable we can have a conversation about how reactable, when reactable, like that. There is a spectrum of reactable, and we can draw different lines about where that spectrum is in a way that facilitates like a reasonable conversation. And so that's So I do like reactable as like a much more sensible like as an art. I know you initially pitch it as a joke, but like, yeah, it is a much better way to view things because it is something that is grounded in a spectrum that can be talked about. And like, we can have reasonable disagreement of like where the line on the spectrum is, and I can try and move you to my line, or I can move your line, or we can have that conversation. But like, dice removal is like, it's, yeah, fucking everything dice removal, man. I don't know what to tell you. Anyways, Grease Fang, for removal engine. So yeah, Armorex is one of the removal engines. This deck is struggles with the problem that at baseline is called 500 ways to make Grave Titan. Because the more I played this deck, the more I realized that you are just making Grave Titan. like this is just, where is it? Parhelion 2. Are we gonna flip it with all the here? Let me give a few details so we can get it. This is one of the most powerful things you can do with Grease Fang. This is just big Grave Titan. This is just Grave Titan, but they're 4/4s. This is Grave Titan with divine visitation out, right? It's not and like, this card's stronger than Grave Titan, but this is Grave Titan, and this is Grave Titan, and this is Grave Titan. Like, this is, we're just, if you haven't noticed, we have really good card, and then we have cycles to be Grave Titan. We have damage. We have Inferno Titan plus Grave Titan. We have big Grave Titan. We have little Grave Titan. We have flying Grave Titan. And then we have removal, reanimate Grave Titan, removal, Grave Titan, blinks everything. Like, that's, so Grease Fang is just Grave Titan. Like, it's just a million ways to make Grave Titan. And as soon as I accepted that about this deck became a lot more fun to build. Like, that is what it is, though. Like, Grave Titan plus Divine Visitation is funny, and like, it's fine, but that is a bracket 2 strategy baseline. Especially since I'm not just like playing 800 Grave Titans, right? I'm playing Grave Titan if I have a sack outlet or a discard outlet or a max hand size or whatever, or a blink, a source of blink every single turn. Like, it's not just Grave Titan. It is, I have to jump through hoops to make Grave Titan. Like, it's not even Grave Titan. I have to do extra shit to be Grave Titan. And Grave Titan is already like aggressively fine. But on the other hand, this is a really efficient removal engine. This every turn is a pretty efficient removal engine. This every turn is a pretty efficient removal engine. This every turn is a pretty efficient removal engine. This every turn is basically bans your opponent's commanders. This is a pretty efficient removal engine. This is a pretty efficient removal engine. I like a good chunk of my deck is like very good at just every single turn I'm going to remove your shit forever and ever and ever, with no end in sight, which is not very bracket 2 behavior, as I have found playing this deck, which has stuck it in a little bit of a weird spot. I really my ideal solution is, so we're running a few let's make more Grave Titan effects and trying to see if we can lean in that direction. You're making me want to play Grave Titan. I'm glad I am. Actually, I hate Grave Titan, but hell yeah. But I think what this deck actually wants is just like a couple more like straight up burn. Like these two, like a couple more of like this effect would actually really, really help this deck feel better at home in bracket 2, because I could cut some of the removal. Because right now, kind of the best thing to do is just I kill your shit over and over and over again. It's more pseudo control. I actually love it as like a little pseudo control engine. I personally, the wise Hoopoe, which is definitely my name, love the little pseudo control engine that this is, which is why I built it this way, kind of naturally. I have found in bracket 2, most of the time, the decks you are up against cannot deal with this kind of problem without getting very, like, even with like general opponents who are like pretty chill, it can be a very frustrating experience just because it's a deck that like cannot, most of these decks do not have the card draw ramp or generally efficient game plan to deploy more than 2 game-ending threats in a turn, and by the time they can get to 2 game ending threats, I can like sack and play Conjurer's Closet. So like I can answer 2 game ending threats before they can deploy them pretty consistently, which leads to this position where like we get these drawn out kind of control-y games that my opponents are kind of not. It's just not ideal for the bracket's like general gameplay. So I'm trying to work on that. This has been a new problem. The turbo removal stuff would probably just be. If I try to push this idea to bracket 3, we maybe run more tutors. We maybe stop with some of the like quirky stuff like Joe D and like, oh, look at how fun I can be with the tension chariot. And like I more focus on stuff like Nautiloid ship that kind of gets broken by the fact that it's haste, and like I think there is a bracket 3 deck in here somewhere that like can be made. Hi. But I don't know. This is kind of the I like what this deck is right now. Like as I like the idea of like jumping through, it's the meme of the guy like walking across a mat and then the dude with like the skateboard and a jetpack and stuff, and it's like how I plan to cast Grave Titan. I like this. I think it's funny to go through all of this. Like I get an Armorix that I can attack with, so I can play with my commanders, so I could get 2 2/2s with vigilance. I like that idea. I think it's very funny. And it's just like I am going through. Oh, I also like milled myself for 9 so I could actually find a fucking vehicle. Like I like that I had to go through all of this effort to do what is effectively a very mundane thing. Oh, just to confirm, this is the right link up in here, right? Please say yes. Please say yes. Is the right? Yeah, it's the right link. Okay, just wanted to confirm that was the right link. So it's very fun. Like this is but it does create this situation that it's not like quite what it wants to be. Or at least it's just not quite happy in bracket 2, you know? I don't quite know exactly how I want to go about fixing that. Because dude, vehicles, especially in fucking Orzhov, vehicles are not good. There are not a lot of up until recently I was running, oh, what's it called? I just call it the boat. It's the 4 mana like 4/4 boat that enters the battlefield and draws a card from like original Kaladesh or Aether Revolt. I was running a 4 mana this thing enters the battlefield and draws a card. Like straight up that was in the deck. And it was not the worst thing. Conqueror's Galleon. I mean, like I pull up Conqueror's Galleon. This card sucks. I remember when this card got printed. Oh, come on. This card is terrible. All right, so this is not when it deals damage, by the way. This is when it attacks at end of combat. You exile it and then you flip it over, and you get this land. I love utility lands. Jesus, this thing sucks. Terrible. And but I was running this. Like this is where we were at when we built the deck. So like, there's just not a lot of very good vehicles. When like it bleeds like a good card, but not. I can't crew it. Cheating it out is not like literally not even the thing I want to do. You know, whether like complete, and I gotta like sack 6 creatures. Like it's very hard. Shout out to Watsy being racist for no reason in Kaladesh. Dude, it's so weird. It's so weird. They're like, hey, yeah, so we accidentally named our plane just like kind of a slur in Hindi by accident because we just Google translated some words. For those of you who do not know, the reason Kaladesh is now a Vishkar is that Kala, so like Desh is a place, and Kala is supposed to be like light or whatever, but apparently in some dialects it's just a slur. So and they did not know this. So that is why they chose it. They in the lore, it's because the Aether Revolt is successful and the consulate is overthrown, and the new elected People's Republic is called Kaladesh now, or People's Council is called Kaladesh now, or Avishkar now. But it is highly amusing that they messed that up. Very funny. They fixed trading post. Yeah, they really needed to fix trading post. That card was really problematic. Magic the Gathering. Problem. Unironically though, that card was printed when you would sometimes play trading post in Commander. Like you would just like as about people would unironic like John Suarez on like Commander versus used to just like straight up run Commander trading post in like random decks. It's just like a value card. Commander pre-fire used to be. Yeah, they renamed the plane to Kaladesh. It's now called a Vishkar. Is the official name is a Vishkar. In lore and also like in lore they rename the plane, and then in like and then like obviously in real life they renamed the plane for other reasons. Very funny. But yeah, I do love this deck. I do love the central idea around this deck. I know we originally brought this as like an example of, were we asking how I build removal engines? I just want to get back to why we brought this up. And decks with removal engine, how to make and use them. So a big thing about a removal engine is that you make a blink deck. And so the blink is just a really easy way to do it. You don't need to necessarily use blink, but you need a repeatable action. You need something that can be repeatedly done. Blink is just the easiest way to do that, because it's just like, yo, you know that enters thing you did, do it again. But you just need a way to repeat an action. So like Muldrotha and Seal of Doom is a good one. But these are just generally repeatable. You need a removal engine generally comes from some repeatable loop of value. And then instead of whatever your normal value piece that like is drawing a card or whatever, you slot in something that is removal. Take a death. Yeah. That's another good example, right? Like another good removal engine is like, what is a repeatable? This is, I'm using a different side, right? Like, in like Glissa, the repeatable value engine is untapping. You naturally untap every turn. That is a repeatable engine of value. Now, normally the value you get out of that repeatable engine is that you get to make all your mana again and attack with all your creatures again. But if you have a death touch creature with a ping, like with the ping ability, now you have turned that repeatable engine of untapping into a way, into a secondary way to create value, which is going to be your removal engine. So you just got to take something that you're like doing repeatedly and staple a piece of removal onto that thing you are doing repeatedly. That's generally how you're going to create. That is how you create most engines. Most engine is just like find something that reliably happens over and over and over and over again, and then have a trigger off of that. Play a card that looks for that thing happening over and over and over again. So like landfall or creature entering or creature attacking or untapping or whatever the hell, whatever you want your deck to be centralized around. That is how you make like an engine. Even as simple as like, right, Phyrexian Arena is an engine. It's checking for a thing that happens every turn, the beginning of upkeep, and it is translating that to repeatable value, drawing a card. It's just like there are different levels of this, you know. Niv-Mizzet plus Death Touch. You're a bad person. How have you found a worse thing to give to Niv-Mizzet than Curiosity? I hate that. I hate that a lot. As someone who has lost to Niv-Mizzet of the Pay Runes more times than I can count. More times than I've forgotten more losses to Niv-Mizzet than most shall experience. That's a new depth. I don't think I've experienced Basilisk. Oh no, I have experienced Basilisk Collar on Niv-Mizzet. Never mind. That has happened to me before. Terrible, awful. That's awful. But just to specify, I hate you in the delightfully devilish Seymour kind of hate you. Very good. Niv-Mizzet plus Niv-Mizzet equals win. Which Niv-Mizzet? Is it Niv-Mizzet? Is it Niv-Mizzet? No, it's Niv-Mizzet. No, is it? Is it Niv-Mizzet? I hate myself. I have so many like little verbal tics like that. The things just like happen in a game. I just like have to say them. I just have to say them. I guess Niv-Mizzet. Is it Niv-Mizzet? Is it Niv-Mizzet? Anytime I make a treasure. Ooh, that is what you are. Every time. I can't not do it. At this point, it is ingrained in my soul. You know, it was just a shock. Shock that does 2 damage. I promise. If I'm getting over, I promise. I mean, no ill will. I don't know any of you well enough to wish ill will towards you. We have not gotten to the point where I am. There's a constant stream of information that'll overwhelm my emotions. At this point, I am. We are. I don't know you guys well enough to actually wish you ill will. I'm having a great time personally, though we are almost at 3 hours. So I think, and my brain is slowly turning to mush, and I need water. So I think we are gonna call it here. Is there any last things anybody wants me to talk about when it comes to this deck, or any of the decks that we've looked at today? Hi, Kitty. Oh, Kitty has also decided that I'm good. Oh, Kitty, say hi. Say hi. Make Misk feel better. Make Misk feel better, Kitty. He's saying I'm sorry. There you go. I hope that made you feel better. But yeah, if with that, thank you all for coming for this first kind of test trial. We're gonna do this every 2 weeks. We'll reveal the cat at some point. We're gonna do this every 2 weeks. Yes, to get a deck review in the future, this is our first one. We're kind of just running it through. To get a deck review in the future, you must subscribe to the $10 tier on Patreon, and then you get one deck review right now per stream, because I don't have a ton of them. Maybe eventually it'll be per month, and we'll, as time extends. But for now, I'll answer the question in a second. Yeah, if you want to get deck reviews in the future, there's going to be, it's the $10 tier on Patreon. You'll also get a signed copy of River Hoopoe, which I can either send to you if you're in the US. If not, it'll just be posted in future videos. At the $1 tier, I'll just put your name in the video. And then the $25 tier, which I don't expect anyone to do, but if you want to see like scripts and stuff early. But for deck reviews, it's the $10 tier, and then probably a couple days beforehand, I'll make a post in the Patreon with a survey for you to fill out with whatever deck you want, and like the information about the deck and stuff that you're wanting me to review. But yeah, with that, for new decks that I give to new players, I'll answer that last question, then we can wrap up here. Most Xenagos is the primary one I give to people. I will sometimes give them Ovika, which is just like a spell slinger deck. And sometimes I'll give them Karlach, which is just like really baseline Voltron, very obvious Voltron. Those are the decks that kind of it's just to limit the number of things going on that they have to track. But yeah, with that, thank you all so much for coming in. Thank you all for listening. This was a great time. I had a wonderful time, and I will have a video out next Friday, and I hope to see you guys again later.